Chapter 659. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are available here. Patients were carried out one after another. Gu Jiao didn't dwell on this issue anymore. Gu Jiao and the doctor from Lingbo Academy had a simple discussion about the patient's triage. After all, they were busy with their own things, so it was difficult to achieve the effect of 1 + 1 + 2. The doctor from Lingbo Academy nodded in agreement. Little brother, you're right. Most people would save the more important patients first. If they were of the same status, they would save the most seriously injured patients first. Actually, this wasn't the best choice for a doctor. However, there were too few people who understood this and dared to do it. After the triage, Gu Jiao asked Mu Qingchen to clear away the irrelevant people at the scene. Other than the doctor and a few people she asked to stay, no one else was allowed to come close. First, it would affect the treatment. Second, it would cause trampling and shoving. As for whether the medicine box was exposed or not, it was a matter of life and death, so they couldn't care less. However, after asking around for so long, other than the state preceptor himself, no one else knew about these modern machines. There was nothing to worry about. Sister, I found a room inside. The light is good, Gu Xiaoshan said to Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao nodded. Okay, I'll send in the patients who need surgery after I'm done with the triage. Out of the 5 patients carried out, 3 had superficial wounds, 1 was seriously injured, and the other had a dislocated right arm. The seriously injured patient had internal bleeding and was in a critical condition. The doctor from Lingbo Academy shook his head. It's impossible to save him. If the people from the state preceptor's hall were here, there might be a chance, but the doctors among the people were afraid. The stretcher is here, Yuan Xiao said. Mu Chuan and Wu Fuzi came over too. The academy didn't have a stretcher, so Wu Fuzi brought them to make it at the last minute. There were 6 stretchers in total. Gu Jiao pointed at the seriously injured patient. Carry him in. The doctor was stunned. Little brother, what are you doing? Gu Jiao said. I'll leave you the first aid kit for the surgery. You saw how I used the medicine just now. I think I saw it, but... The doctor looked at the patient who was being carried in disbelief. Can this person really be saved? Is this student a Bauer? It wasn't surprising that he knew some simple bandaging, but was he really confident in treating such a serious injury? Little brother. The doctor had good intentions. He didn't want the young man to be impulsive and kill the patient. He didn't want the young man to be responsible for it. Before he could speak, Gu Xiaoshan arrived and said to Wu Fuzi and Jiao Wei, who were carrying the stretcher, this room. Wu Fuzi carried the injured inside. To be honest, the two of them could see that there was something wrong with that person's injuries. Xiao Lulang was just an outsider who came to help. He didn't have to work so hard. To put it bluntly, they were also worried that Xiao Lulang would kill him. Bring the other stretchers over there. Gu Jiao pointed in the direction of the collapse. The collapsed area was on the right side of the attic. It wasn't far from the open space in front of them. What do I do? Mu Qingchen asked. Gu Jiao said. I need planks to fix the arms and legs. Mu Qingchen said. Okay, I got it. Mu Chuan hurriedly said. 4th brother, I'll go too. Mu Qingchen said. I'll go alone. You stay here and don't let anyone in. Mu Chuan felt the trust and weight in his 4th brother's words. He said seriously, yes. 4th brother. The dean of Lingbo Academy also arrived at the scene. He thought it would be chaotic, but everything was in order. Everyone had a clear division of labor. Even Mount Song Academy and Black Bamboo Academy, who were originally fighting, put aside their previous grudges and worked together to dig a hole in the collapsed area to save the patient. As for the situation that he was most worried about, it didn't happen. Mu Qingchen led the academy and the Mu family's guards to surround the scene. Even a fly couldn't get in. It was under these circumstances that he saw Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao had just connected a patient's dislocated arm when Mu Qingchen came over with planks of various sizes. Gu Jiao wrapped a plank around the patient's arm and wrapped it with gauze before hanging it around his neck to help him break. The dean of Lingbo Academy was confused. Wait, isn't this the Tianqiong Academy's Zhu Jusho who single-handedly led everyone astray? From secretly learning from Su Ping in the previous round to messing with the Black Wind Cavalry in this round. Every hair on his body was indecent. He couldn't recognize him when he suddenly became serious. After Gu Jiao finished breaking the patient, she handed him to the doctor of Lingbo Academy. Take care of the dislocation. His leg is still injured. The doctor of Lingbo Academy nodded. I know. I'll do it. You can go in for the operation. The dean of Lingbo Academy widened his eyes. This brat can operate on people? There weren't enough doctors. After knowing that the Duke's estate brought a godly doctor over, the dean of Lingbo Academy immediately asked for help from Second Master Jing. Second Master Jing looked at Muru Xian. Muru Xian said, a doctor has a benevolent heart. Saving lives and helping the injured is my duty. Dean, please lead the way. Thank you, godly Dr. Mu. The dean of Lingbo Academy was wild with joy and quickly brought Muru Xian to the scene. Muru Xian didn't let anyone take her medicine box from the carriage. It was full of precious medicines and she couldn't bear to use it on a group of servants. It just so happened that the others didn't know she brought it. Gu Jiao was halfway through the operation. The patient's internal bleeding was very serious. Blood splashed onto her goggles, and she suddenly couldn't see anything. Both her hands were busy so she couldn't wipe the blood away. Xiaoshun, she called out. Mu Qingchen and Wu Fuzi were fixing the deck for the patient with fractures. When they heard her call, they quickly got up and walked over. Just as he was about to ask Gu Jiao what she needed, he saw a tall figure enter the room before him. The owner of the figure extended a slender hand and used a handkerchief to wipe the blood off Gu Jiao's goggles. Hemostatic forceps, she said. That person skillfully took the hemostatic forceps and handed it to her. She took it and clamped the blood vessel. Needle holder, she said again. The man handed her the needle and forceps without any mistake. She was halfway through the suturing when she suddenly realized that Gu Xiaoshun didn't know about these things. Only Gu Yan knew because Gu Yan was the only one who asked her out of curiosity. She abruptly looked at the person beside her and was slightly stunned. Xiaoheng didn't speak. There were people watching outside so he couldn't speak. Gu Jiao caught a glimpse of Mu Qingchen at the door from the corner of her eyes. She pretended not to notice and continued to suture. Thank you, Mississippi. Please pass me the third pair of scissors on your right. A life is at stake. If I offend you, please forgive me. Xiaoheng was wearing the uniform of Tsanglan Academy and a veil. His side profile was as delicate as jade. Qingchen, come and help. Wu Fuzi's voice sounded outside. Mu Qingchen looked at the two of them deeply. In the end, he didn't enter the room. He turned around and helped Wu Fuzi treat the wounded. Gu Jiao had already classified the wounded and left enough medicine for the doctors of Lingbo Academy. The treatment on the scene was busy but not in a panic. This was the situation Muru Xian saw. She came with the attitude of a savior, but here, there didn't seem to be much use for her. She had been to the scene of the accident with her master before. The accident wasn't so big, but it was still very messy. Here, this is Miss Mu, Divine Dr. Luo's disciple. The dean of Lingbo Academy said to his doctor. When the doctor heard the words Divine Dr. Luo, he didn't have much of a reaction. He pointed at a patient with a thigh injury. I'll have to trouble Miss to help treat his injury. The scene that Muru Xian expected to be the center of attention didn't appear. She frowned and looked at the other unconscious patient lying in a pool of blood. She said, I'll treat him first. His injuries are more serious. Serious and urgent were two different things. His injury was more serious, but the bleeding had stopped. His injury wouldn't worsen for the time being. If the patient with the thigh injury wasn't treated in time, he might become the second critical patient, due to excessive blood loss. Fortunately, the doctor was about to finish treating the patient, so he didn't say anything. Muru Xian treated the unconscious patient while the doctor went to stop the bleeding for the patient with the thigh injury. Gu Jiao finished the first operation. After that, Gu Xiaoshun brought in a few more patients. Their injuries weren't too serious. When Mu Qingchen passed by the door, He paused and casually glanced inside. He happened to see Xiao Heng wiping the sweat from Gu Jiao's forehead. Gauze, Gu Jiao said. Xiao Heng casually picked up a piece of gauze and handed it to her. Outside the door, Muru Xian and the doctor from Lingbo Academy were also treating a patient's injury. The two didn't discriminate between men and women. They passed things and helped each other. However, for some reason, Mu Qingchen felt that the atmosphere at Gu Jiao's side was different from Muru Xian's side. It was an indescribable feeling. The news was tightly sealed, so it didn't affect the 4 matches in the afternoon. When the matches ended, all the treatment work was successfully completed. Song Mountain Academy and Black Bamboo Academy were disqualified for the following matches due to their violation of the rules. Most of the injured patients were from Lingbo Academy. There were also a few disciples from the academy who were injured in the fighting and in the process of saving people. The 3 deans expressed their gratitude to Gu Jiao and Muru Xian, especially Gu Jiao. Her performance was really amazing. Muru Xian felt that her limelight had been stolen. It was just a swindling quack. After a few days, when the patient's condition worsened, these people would understand who was the true descendant of the divine doctor. She said, "Dean, you're too polite. It's my duty. There's no need to mention it." Gu Jiao handed 3 lists to the 3 deans. The consultation fee will be paid on the spot. No credit. The 3 deans were speechless. The dean of Lingbo Academy coughed lightly and took the longest list. "It's my duty. It's my duty." Muru Xian mocked. Young Master Xiao. A doctor should be benevolent. You're only treating a few patients. Aren't you embarrassed to accept the consultation fee? You don't have to be so stingy. Gu Jiao directly handed the remaining 2 lists to her. "If you're so generous, why don't you pay?" Muru Xian choked. Gu Jiao only accepted her portion. As for whether Muru Xian and that doctor wanted to find someone else to settle the consultation fee, that was their business. Xiao Heng's appearance at the scene didn't arouse anyone's suspicion, because Su Shui had also come later. However, the scene was too busy, so Su Shui was left outside. When she saw Gu Jiao and Xiao Heng coming out one after another, she then realized that the 2 of them were in the same room. But when she thought about how everyone was treating the patients, she didn't suspect anything. There were people inside and outside the loft. Gu Jiao and Xiao Heng maintained the appearance of strangers from beginning to end. They didn't even make eye contact. The deans also expressed their gratitude to Xiao Heng, Su Shui, Mu Qingchen and the others. Mu Qingchen said to Gu Jiao, "Let's go." He then said to Su Shui, "You should also go back." Su Shui pouted. "Oh." Gu Jiao paused and suddenly turned around. She cupped her hands and bowed to Xiao Heng. "Thank you for just now." Xiao Heng also bowed slightly to Gu Jiao in return. Yuan Xiao touched his chin and muttered, "You two are just thanking each other. Why do you make it seem like you're going through a wedding ceremony?" Mu Qingchen and Su Shui glared at him. Yuan Xiao turned around and touched the back of his head. Let's go." The 2 sides said their goodbyes. Xiao Heng went to the stands to pick up little Jing Kong, while Gu Jiao and the others went to the stables. When Gu Jiao went to the innermost stables and planned to lead the Horse King out, she saw a man standing outside. It was a man about 30 years old. He wasn't too tall, but he had a strong body and strong facial features. The man was originally observing the Horse King in the stables. When he saw Gu Jiao, he immediately showed a gentle smile. "Little brother Xiao." He turned around and greeted. "Who are you?" Gu Jiao asked. He said politely, "My surname is Chu. Little brother Xiao, you can call me Chu Nan." "What's the matter?" Gu Jiao asked again. He turned his head and smiled at the Horse King in the stables. He then turned to Gu Jiao and said, "I like this horse very much." "It's not for sale," Gu Jiao said. He couldn't help but laugh. "That's not what I meant. Little brother Xiao, don't misunderstand." Gu Jiao opened the gate of the fence and went in to lead the Horse King out. The Horse King was as gentle as it was in front of Gu Jiao, but it was as fierce as it was when it passed by Chu Nan. Chu Nan took a step back and said with a smile, "Your horse is very interesting. Can I take a look at it? I want to see how old it is." Gu Jiao wanted to refuse, but when she heard the last sentence, she paused. You know how to look at horses? Chunan laughed. You really don't know how old it is? Gu Jiao looked at him strangely. What do you mean? Chunan looked at the horse king and said, if you knew how old it was, you wouldn't have ridden it so early. I couldn't see it clearly when it bowed, but I guess it's not even 3 years old. I'm a horse trainer, he added. Gu Jiao said to him, then take a look. It's my honor. Chunan came in front of the horse king. Maybe it was because Gu Jiao allowed it, but the horse king didn't fiercely attack Chunan this time. Chunan guided the horse king to open its mouth. He was probably worried that Gu Jiao or Gu Jiao's family would imitate it. He reminded, this is very dangerous. Normal people shouldn't do this. Look at yours, Gu Jiao said. Chunan checked the horse king's teeth and exclaimed, it's younger than I thought. It's only 2.5 years old. Gu Jiao was shocked. It had such great strength. How could it be so young? Chunan admired it. It's a horse king, right? But a 2.5-year-old horse king is quite rare. Also, it doesn't look like a normal horse king. Gu Jiao said, so it's not fully grown yet and can't be ridden? Chunan said, you can ride it, but you have to be careful. This was because Gu Jiao's horse king was strong enough. Other horses could only be ridden when they were at least 3 years old. Chunan continued to ask, it shouldn't be ridden too often like today. You don't train it like this every day, right? No. Gu Jiao rarely rode it, and her family didn't ride it either. Thinking of something, Gu Jiao asked again, can it work? The kind that pulls carriages and mills? Chunan smiled and nodded. It's not a problem at all. It's very strong. After saying that, Chunan felt that something was wrong. Why would a horse king need to pull a mill? Gu Jiao made a sound and looked at the horse king. So you're still a baby. I always thought you were very old. The horse king's face fell like an old man. Chunan laughed out loud. A 2.5-year-old horse king wasn't small. It was about the same size as an adult horse, equivalent to a teenager. It was the age when it was the most rebellious. So it couldn't be blamed for being so happy in the boxing ring. What Chunan didn't say was that this was a good horse that was hard to come by in 100 years. The only thing that could be compared to it was the mount of war god Xianyuan Li. Unfortunately, Xianyuan Li and his mount had died in battle. After Gu Jiao led the horse king away, Chunan also left the stable and walked in the opposite direction. Han Che had been waiting for a long time. Young master. Chunan bowed. Han Che asked seriously, how is that horse? Chunan told him the truth. Han Che frowned. How is our Han family's Black Wind King compared to it? Chunan was slightly stunned and patted his head. I forgot about Black Wind King. Of course Black Wind King is better. Black Wind King is a rare horse. But Black Wind King belongs to Big Brother. Han Che looked at the horse king that was led away by Gu Jiao. If only it was mine. When Gu Jiao led the horse king out, Xiao Heng had already taken little Jing Kong away. Gu Yan and Din Sim were also gone. She walked toward the gate of the academy. When she passed by the stands on the other side, she found that most of the spectators had left. Only the students from Tianqiong Academy and Wuyue Academy were left. Both sides were ready to fight. Mu Qingchen stopped them. What's the matter? Gu Jiao walked over and asked. Without waiting for Mu Qingchen to speak, Zhou Tong pulled Gu Jiao's sleeve as if she had seen her savior. She pointed at the students from Wuyue Academy and said, they made a bet with us. If our academy won, they would call us father. But they didn't admit it and even wanted to beat us up. Gu Jiao asked Zhou Tong, did you beat them up? Zhou Tong pursed her lips. Almost. Young Master Qingchen arrived. A student from Wuyue Academy said, don't think that you're so great just because you won 2 matches. You just cheated with a horse. Zhou Tong said angrily, who cheated? You better watch your mouth. Gu Jiao sighed and said, forget it. Stop arguing. It's my fault. Everyone was stunned. Mu Qingchen frowned. Although the students from Wuyue Academy did not know why Gu Jiao admitted her mistake, they guessed that Gu Jiao was scared. They suddenly felt confident. The leading student sneered. You also know that you're wrong. Of course. Gu Jiao nodded seriously and looked at the people from Wuyue Academy. It's the father's fault for not teaching his son well. You're shameless. It's my fault. Digression K. Daddy Jiao is still your Daddy Jiao. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found on the internet are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964286/1076555896. HTML Genius memorized the website address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Pavilion Mobile Reading Website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 660. Please scan the QR code below to download the app for more exciting content. Novels are updated faster and more frequently. Millions of novels are free to read. There are all kinds of novels that can't be found online. On the way back, Gu Jiao rode the academy's horse. The Horse King led the way happily. Gu Jiao rode her horse to the side of the carriage and asked Gu Yan, who was in the carriage, "Did you bring the medicine box?" Gu Yan looked at Gu Jiao in confusion. "I didn't bring it. Why would I bring it?" Gu Jiao muttered. "Oh, then why is it in the basket?" Gu Yan said, "Xiaoshun put it there?" "It wasn't me." On the other side, Gu Xiaoshun said, "I took the basket and set off this morning. I didn't touch the things inside." Gu Yan thought for a moment and looked at Gu Jiao. "You put it there. Have you forgotten?" Gu Jiao hesitated. Then maybe the medicine box couldn't have run into the basket by itself. When she found out that the first aid kit was not enough, she did think that it would be better if the medicine box was there. Now that it was really there, she was paranoid again. Forget it. Forget it. Lulang. Mu Chuan rode over. Mu Qingchen was on the other side of Gu Jiao. When Mu Chuan came over, he didn't move aside. Mu Chuan was a little anxious. "Fourth brother, can't you see? Can't you see that I have something to say to Lulang?" If fourth brother didn't move aside, Mu Chuan couldn't do anything. After all, he couldn't beat fourth brother. Mu Chuan could only talk to Gu Jiao with Mu Qingchen between them. "Lulang, do you really know medicine?" Last time, after the competition, they met the Duke who had fallen near the academy. At that time, Gu Xiaoshun said that Xiao Lulang knew medicine, and asked Xiao Lulang if he wanted to take a look at the Duke. They only thought that Xiao Lulang was at an ordinary level, but today Xiao Lulang treated several seriously injured patients, which surprised them. Mu Qingchen was also waiting for Gu Jiao's answer. "Oh," Gu Jiao replied. "I've learned a little." "That's not a little, right?" Mu Chuan raised an eyebrow. Mu Qingchen seemed to have noticed Gu Jiao's reluctance to talk about this topic, so he said to Mu Chuan, "Is it hot to squeeze over there? Aren't you not going back to the academy?" Mu Chuan said, "I'll go. If you go back, I'll go back." Mu Qingchen did not say anything else. Mu Chuan chatted with Gu Jiao for a while, and then the road out of the city gate narrowed, so Mu Chuan had to walk away from them. Mu Qingchen had always been confused, but he did not know if he should say it. When they were about to part ways in the academy, he finally stopped Gu Jiao. "Do you know Su Shue's roommate?" "No, I don't." Gu Jiao denied it. He just learned about the incident in the attic from Jing Kong and Deanson when he went to pick up Jing Kong. He came to see if there was anything he could help with. "You don't talk so much usually." Mu Qingchen said with a complicated expression. Gu Jiao blinked and said confidently, "Isn't it because of his beauty? I'm a little tempted." Mu Qingchen was choked by her words. Every time you thought that your classmate's skin was already thick enough, he would be thicker by an inch for you to see. Mu Qingchen frowned and said, "You have a fiancé?" Gu Jiao raised her eyebrows and said carelessly, "Everyone loves beauty. Even if I have a fiancé, it won't stop me from looking at beauties." "I think you're really." Mu Qingchen could not reach a consensus with Gu Jiao on this topic, so he rode his horse to the front. Gu Jiao looked at his angry back and thought that men in ancient times had such a strong sixth sense. She and Xiao Heng were almost caught doing nothing. It seemed that she had to be more careful in the future. After arriving at the academy, Gu Jiao returned the horse to the stable, and then took Deanson's carriage with Gu Xiaoshan and Gu Yan back home with the Horse King. I guess that you would win. The food is ready. Madame Nan brought the food with a smile. It was Master Lu who cooked. He cooked the children's favorite pork knuckle with rock sugar, braised crucian carp, dried bamboo shoots with vinegar and stewed lotus seed soup that Madame Nan liked. Of course, there was also the stinky mandarin fish that old Master Meng had been talking about for a long time. The whole family was smelled. The Horse King rolled its eyes and stuck its tongue out in the backyard. It swore that it would never walk away from this stinky old man again. Guyan was allowed to eat a piece of shiny pork knuckle skin today, and was very satisfied. Did you bring the pickled radish to Lulang and Jing Kong? Madame Nan asked. I gave it to Jing Kong. Gu Xiaoshan said. Madame Nan nodded. I miss Jing Kong and Lulang. Guyan did not refute her. When Jing Kong was still around, he always complained that Jing Kong was too noisy. Now that Jing Kong was gone, he felt that his home was not lively enough. Little stinky monk. The night was falling. In a dormitory of the Kanglan Women's Academy, little Jing Kong sat on his chair. In front of him were the dishes that Brother Xiaoshan brought him today. He was very picky. No matter how simple the dishes were, they had to be very delicate. It was because he had set up the plate that they were late for dinner. Can we eat now? Xiaoheng asked faintly. Yes. Little Jing Kong shook his little head. He picked up his small chopsticks with satisfaction, and picked up a piece of pickled radish that Madame Nan had pickled herself. The pickled radish was shaped into small flowers and looked very delicious. He couldn't wait to put it into his mouth. Just as he took a bite, it tasted so bad that he fell backwards and rolled off the chair. Oh, why does it taste as bad as what my bad brother-in-law made? It's so salty. Because little Jing Kong had eaten 2 salty dishes, he drank 2 large cups of water, causing his stomach to be round when he went to bed. He climbed onto the bed with great difficulty, and lay down on the mattress like a little salted fish without a soul. Not long after, the little salted fish started to snore. The weather was hot, and there were more mosquitoes. Xiao Heng went over and clamped the curtains. He couldn't sleep. Little Nine stood on the tree outside the window to keep watch. He thought for a while and called Little Nine over. In the house, after the family had eaten dinner, they washed up and returned to their rooms. Gu Jiao went to check Gu Yan's pulse and listened to his heart and lungs as usual. Gu Yan was already asleep. Gu Jiao was very gentle and didn't wake him up. After returning to the room, Gu Jiao planned to rest. Suddenly, a small black shadow fell on the windowsill outside. Ku Little Nine called. Gu Jiao went over and gently pushed the window lattice. Little Nine flapped his wings and flew up. After the window lattice was opened, he flew in and landed on the desk by the window. There was a small pouch tied to Little Nine's right leg. Gu Jiao took down the pouch and opened it. There was a stack of banknotes, a note, and a brand new hairband. The hairband was made of blue ice silk. It was very soft to the touch and the color was very good. It complemented the blue and white uniform of Tianqiong Academy. The banknotes were worth 1,000 taels. There were only 2 simple words written on the note. Household use. Gu Jiao supported her chin with one hand, and played with the ice blue hairband with the other. She looked at the word household use, over and over again. In other words, this was a love letter. Gu Jiao smiled. She opened the drawer and took out a piece of paper. She knew how to write a love poem too. Xiao Heng sat in the room and waited. He wasn't sure if she had rested. But when facing Gu Jiao, he wouldn't hesitate so much. Luckily, Little Nine flew back after a short while. Little Nine was holding the pouch in her mouth. He opened the pouch and took out a paper crane from it. The paper crane was made from the water pattern paper he gave her. He still remembered her indescribable expression when she received the paper. He didn't expect that she would bring the paper to Yin country's capital. There was something else in the pouch. He took it out and saw that it was a note written on the water pattern paper. The first one read, "The mountain has no edges, the heaven and earth are united. Only then I dare to break up with you." Xiao Heng's handsome face turned red. Was this last confessing her feelings to him? Did she have to be so explicit? The second one read, "I won't be lovesick in my life. Only then will I be lovesick, and I will be lovesick." Xiao Heng's face turned even hotter. So she missed him so much. The third one read, "The bottom of the lovesick tree is endless. I hate myself for not knowing." Xiao Heng's heart seemed to be filled with something. It was swollen and scalding. He didn't know that this lass had such literary talent. Also, her feelings for him were actually so deep. Gu Jiao wrote more than 10 notes. Every one of them made Xiao Heng's face turn red and his heart beat wildly. But it wasn't just from one note that the love poem on the note gradually became a little strange. The world is long, and the world is long, but sometimes it ends. This hatred is endless. The corner of Xiao Heng's mouth twitched. This love can become a memory, but at that time it was already lost. Xiao Heng's face stiffened. "Returning your bowl of heartless tears. I hate that we didn't meet before." At the end, she even drew half of a little person beating her chest and stamping her feet. Xiao Heng. The latest chapter of this book isn't finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel is updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are novels with connotations that can't be found online here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964226/1076377707. HTML Genius memorized the website's address in a second. www.zhbqg.com Bikuga mobile reading website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 661. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated even faster. Millions of novels will be read for free. Novels with content that can't be found on the internet can be found here. Gu Jiao had a problem. She would feel sleepy after reciting poems. She could grit her teeth and persevere at the beginning, but at the end, she was so sleepy that she didn't even know what she had written. Even the purse was taken away by Xiaojiao. Xiao Heng was angry and amused at the same time when he read the last part. He had thought that those poems were written from the bottom of her heart. Now, it seemed that she had copied them from somewhere. Looking at the last few notes, the words were crooked. She must have been so sleepy that she didn't even know where she had copied them. Xiao Heng gritted his teeth in anger. "What a waste of my excitement. I won't fall for your tricks again, little liar." She must have fallen asleep. Xiao Heng didn't reply. Xiaojiao saw that there was nothing else for him to do and flew back to the tree branch. Xiao Heng still couldn't sleep. If it wasn't for the love poems, he wouldn't be so petty as to care about this. It was the information he had found during the day that made him need to calm down and carefully sort it out. After Gu Jiao told him that the people behind Nangong Li were the royal family, he went to the busiest tea house in Chengdu to find a few storytellers to understand the royal family's background. He didn't find out much, but he did know a thing or two about the Nangong family. The Nangong family and the Crown Prince's residence were close. This was a tacit secret in Chengdu. The Crown Prince of Zhao Country lived in the East Palace, while the Crown Prince of Yen Country left the palace to build a residence. The Crown Prince of Yen Country was the king's second son. His birth mother was imperial concubine Han. The young master who had prepared the viewing platform for him that day was the Crown Prince's eldest son, Ming Jun Wang. Ming Jun Wang was cousins with Han Che, who had struck the bow at Pingyang Academy today. Even though there was no evidence that the Crown Prince's residence had instigated the Nangong family, the Crown Prince's residence was still the most suspicious. So the question was, who was the Crown Prince's residence? Why did they want to deal with him? Tonight, Chengdu was particularly stuffy, and there wasn't the slightest bit of coolness at night. The Duke's residence that had been busy for the whole day gradually quieted down. Muru Xian sat in her room. "Bring some more ice over," she said with a frown. "Miss, what's wrong with you?" The maidservant asked, puzzled. There were already 2 basins of ice in the room, and if there were any more, she would catch a cold. "I'm not happy," Muru Xian said gloomily. Zhou Tong. Xiaoshan. Zhou Tong stopped in front of Gu Jiao and Gu Xiaoshan with a smile. Gu Jiao asked, "Is something going to happen today? Why is everyone like that?" Zhou Tong asked. Like what? Lulang. About 17 unfamiliar students greeted Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao signaled with her eyes. Like just now. Zhou Tong looked at the back of the student who was walking away and suddenly smiled. You're talking about everyone knowing you. What's so strange about that? Don't you remember that you won the competition yesterday? Gu Jiao said. That doesn't mean they all know me. It wasn't like they all went to watch the competition. Zhou Tong chuckled and grabbed her wrist through her sleeve. Come with me and you'll know. Gu Xiaoshan bared her teeth. Hey, let go of my sister. Zhou Tong brought Gu Jiao to the academy's bulletin board. It was already surrounded by the academy's students. Lulang is here. Someone in the crowd shouted. The people who had been gathered in front of the bulletin board suddenly dispersed and made way for Gu Jiao. This treatment caught Gu Jiao a little off guard. Zhou Tong didn't stand on ceremony with them. He happily pulled Gu Jiao to the front and pointed at the bulletin board. Look. Gu Jiao looked at it. On the left side of the bulletin board was yesterday's competition and the great commendation for them. On the right side were portraits of them, but only Gu Jiao was riding on a horse. She held the reins in one hand and the cue stick in the other. Half of her back was shown. She turned her head and revealed half of her face. What was revealed was the right side of her face that didn't have a birthmark. Her clothes fluttered in the wind and her hair ribbons flew across her face. She looked indescribably valiant. Even next to the handsome Mu Qingchen, she didn't pale in comparison. Gu Jiao looked at the young man in bright clothes and almost didn't recognize herself. Was this how she looked in the eyes of others? Zhou Tong said. We worked together to draw it. We drew it all night. Only then did Gu Jiao notice that Zhou Tong's eyes were dark. She then looked at Zhong Ding and the others who were putting up the portraits. They all had heavy dark circles under their eyes. This was something that Gu Jiao had never experienced in her previous life. In her previous life, she was always first in the exams and won many prizes. However, no one could get close to her. Or rather, she didn't want to get close to anyone. Her identity meant that she couldn't have any friends. How did we draw? Zhou Tong asked expectantly. Gu Jiao's gaze swept across Zhou Tong, Zhong Ding, and everyone who went to the competition yesterday. Everyone looked at her with anticipation and anxiety in their eyes. Not bad, Gu Jiao said. Everyone smiled as if relieved of a burden. They were students of the literature department and were good at zither, chess, calligraphy, and painting. However, they didn't know why they had to wait until Gu Jiao personally acknowledged their drawings. Don't you all have classes? Gu Jiao asked indifferently. Zhou Tong smiled. Yes, we have classes. Gu Jiao turned around and walked away coolly. After taking a few steps, she said casually, Draw a few more. The walls at home are a little empty. Tianqiong Academy hadn't been so popular for a long time. Although they were called the Royal Academy, in fact, that was many years ago. The last time they had a top scholar was 17 years ago. After that, they didn't even have a second or third place, let alone a top scholar. They weren't good at literature or martial arts and were often laughed at. Now that they had won 2 consecutive competitions and defeated 2 powerful academies, they were elated. Dinsen was also very happy. He called Gu Jiao Mu Qingchen and the others to his duty room and praised them. You did well in these 2 competitions and showed Tianqiong Academy's standard. However, don't be arrogant. Train well and strive to win glory for the academy in the next competition. Mu Qingchen and the others cupped their hands. Gu Jiao raised her eyebrows. That's it. Dinsen was stunned. Gu Jiao said, Aren't you going to give me something more practical? For example, the prize money? Dinsen was speechless. Ahem. Dinsen coughed and said seriously, The academy is short on funds recently. If you win next time, we'll give you everything. Gu Jiao caught the main point. Then you won't give us anything if we lose? Dinsen coughed. You little brat, can you not talk about money every 3 sentences? How can people who read books stink of money? Gu Jiao asked, So are we giving or not? Dinsen was speechless. Was it too late for him to say no? On the way back to Bright Heart Hall, Mu Qingchen asked Gu Jiao, Are you short on money? Gu Jiao raised her eyebrows. You can say that. Do you have a way to earn money? Mu Qingchen said, I can lend you as much as you want. There's no need. Gu Jiao waved her hand. She wasn't short on money now. She was just preparing for a rainy day. Gu Yan's surgery would take place next month. It might cost a lot of money, Gu Jiao said seriously. If you have a way to earn money, call me. I won't treat you badly. I'll let you be the middleman and earn some money. Mu Qingchen was speechless. The latest chapter is not finished yet. Please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. You can find all the novels that you can't find online. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964286/10763756. HTML Genius memorized the website's address. www.zhbqg.com Biku Pavilion's mobile reading website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 662. Please scan the QR code below to download the app for more exciting content. The novel was updated more quickly. Millions of novels were free to read. There were all kinds of novels that couldn't be found on the internet. After the last class in the morning, Gu Jiao went to have lunch with Gu Xiaoshan. Mu Qingchen thought for a while and stopped her. Are you really short of money? Gu Jiao looked at him. He opened his mouth and said, there is a job that is a little hard. If you want it, I can take you there after school. Okay. Gu Jiao agreed. Mu Qingchen frowned and looked at her. Why don't you ask what the job is? Gu Jiao said without hesitation. What kind of inhumane job can a young master like you get? Mu Qingchen was speechless. After school, Gu Jiao told Gu Xiaoshan to go home first. She had something to do. Sister, do you want me to go with you? Gu Xiaoshan asked in a low voice. No need. Gu Jiao said. She could work alone. Gu Xiaoshan always listened to her. Hearing this, he scratched his head and said, oh, then I'll go first. Come back early. After seeing Gu Xiaoshan off, Gu Jiao turned right and walked a dozen steps to get into Mu Qingchen's carriage. She sat down on the side seat. Mu Qingchen must have told the driver. So the coachman started the carriage without saying anything. It was still early and the carriage was stuffy. Gu Jiao opened the window slightly. The bright sky shone in, and everything in the carriage was clearly visible. Mu Qingchen turned his eyes and caught a glimpse of the ice blue hairband on her head. This kind of ice blue silk material was very precious and couldn't be bought in the outer city. Of course, it could be bought in the inner city, but Gu Jiao didn't have the habit of dressing luxuriously. Why are you looking at me? Gu Jiao noticed that he was looking at her. The hairband is good. Mu Qingchen looked away. Gu Jiao touched the hairband Xiaoheng gave her, and shook her head in her heart. Well, I think it's good too. Mu Qingchen couldn't help but look at her again. She couldn't hide the happiness in her eyes. He didn't know whether it was because of the hairband that she obviously didn't buy herself, or because she was going to make money. Now that you've become famous, there will be a lot of people who want to know you. Don't get too close to everyone. Gu Jiao, Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao originally thought that he would bring her into the inner city to do something. Unexpectedly, the carriage turned and headed in the other direction of the outer city. After traveling for about 10 miles to the east, the carriage arrived at a majestic mansion. There were a few guards standing guard at the entrance of the mansion. The coachman flashed his token, and the guards walked over. Mu Qingchen lifted the curtain and said to the guard, "It's me." The guards hurriedly cupped their hands and allowed the carriage to pass. Mu Qingchen's carriage drove into the mansion. "Young master, we're here." Mu Qingchen got out of the carriage. Gu Jiao jumped out of the carriage as well. Wow! Gu Jiao couldn't help but exclaim when she saw the scenery in front of her. Was he really in the mansion? What a big Mu Qingchen thought. There was an orchard to the east of a forest to the south, and a long path to the west. There was a long and winding path to the west, and there was a lotus pond to the north. The lotus leaves in the pond were as green as jade, and there were white and pink lotus flowers. The scenery was so beautiful. Where are we? Gu Jiao Mu asked. Yan Shanjuan's mansion. Mu Qingchen said. Yin Shanjun. Gu Jiao Mu had never heard of it. Mu Qingchen didn't explain too much. At this moment, a pretty maid walked over and greeted Mu Qingchen with a smile. Young Master Qingchen. Mu Qingchen nodded slightly. Is your young master here? Yes, the maid said with a smile. I'll take you there. She looked at Gu Jiao Mu. Gu Jiao Mu Qingchen was wearing the Tianqiong Academy uniform. She looked a little young, and the birthmark on the left side of her face was hard to miss. Mu Qingchen introduced her calmly. She's my classmate. Her surname is Xiao. Young Master Xiao. The maid greeted him politely. Gu Jiao Mu nodded. This way please. The maid didn't ask why Mu Qingchen brought his classmate here. She led them to the orchard on the other side of the field. They met many servants along the way, and all of them knew Mu Qingchen. After entering the orchard, Gu Jiao Mu heard a few anxious girls' voices. Princess! You can't climb the tree. Princess, come down. Princess! We won't be able to explain to our young master if you do this. Gu Jiao Mu was wondering who the princess they were talking about was. She wondered if it was a girl about the same age as Su Shui. Then she saw a little girl on a peach tree. The little girl climbed up a tall branch. The servants didn't dare to climb up because the branch was very thin. They would break the branch if they climbed up. Princess! Mu Qingchen said softly. The little girl looked over and her big eyes lit up. Mu Qingchen. Oh, she actually called him by his name. Mu Qingchen walked over. The little girl opened her arms and jumped down without hesitation. The maid screamed in fear. Mu Qingchen caught her easily and put her on the ground. The little princess raised her head and asked seriously, "Why didn't you come to see me for so long? Are you lazy and not teaching me?" Her voice was sweet. Mu Qingchen smiled and said, "I've been too busy these days. I came here as soon as I finished my work." The little princess nodded. "Well, I heard that you participated in the archery competition. Did you win?" Mu Qingchen replied seriously. "Thanks to the princess, I won 2 matches." "Then you're good," the little princess said. Then she turned her head and saw Gu Jiao walking over. Who are you?" Mu Qingchen introduced. "He's the teacher I chose for you. He's good at writing." The little princess tilted her head and looked at Gu Jiao. Then she turned to Mu Qingchen and asked, "Is he better than you?" Mu Qingchen nodded with a smile. "Yes, he's better than me. He even tamed the wild horse king of our academy. He also participated in the archery competition." Mu Qingchen was a gentleman who didn't smile much. When he smiled, he looked so gentle that it made people feel warm. The maids couldn't help staring at him. Master Qingchen only showed such a gentle side to the little princess. He was so charming. The little princess folded her arms and said mischievously, "Actually, you don't want to teach me, so you found someone to teach me, right?" Mu Qingchen calmly took off a leaf from her head and said, "Why don't you try it?" The little princess looked at Gu Jiao again and looked up and down at Gu Jiao. She was probably curious about the thing on her face, so she asked, "Why is there a flower on your face?" She was younger than little Jing Kong, but she didn't say the word fold. "Did you draw it?" Gu Jiao asked. The young commandery princess said in a very dignified manner, "Draw one for me as well." The maids chuckled. Mu Qingchen introduced Gu Jiao to the job of teaching the little princess to ride. Mu Qingchen was not good at teaching children. Yesterday he saw that Gu Jiao got along well with Su Shui's roommate's younger brother. He thought that Gu Jiao had a talent for communicating with children. "That's it?" Gu Jiao asked. Mu Qingchen said, "The little princess has asthma. You know medicine, so there's no one more suitable than you." "Oh." Gu Jiao understood. "Do you come every day or?" Mu Qingchen shook his head. "No, you can come every 3 to 5 days. You can decide how long you want to practice according to the little princess's physical condition. 50 taels a month." Gu Jiao was very satisfied with the work intensity and the pay. Because it was the first day, Mu Qingchen was worried about whether Gu Jiao was qualified for the job, so he stayed with Gu Jiao. The two went to the stable to accompany the little princess to choose a horse. The little princess had her own stable. The stable was full of docile foals. The little princess asked Gu Jiao to choose one. Gu Jiao picked a white one. You're wearing a white fairy dress today. It matches well. It was unknown if the word fairy had pleased the young princess, but she raised her chin and said, "That's right, I think so too." The servant in the stable brought the little princess's special saddle. Gu Jiao fastened the saddle and carried the little princess up. Before the little princess sat down, she threw herself at Gu Jiao. "Wait, wait, wait. I'm scared." Gu Jiao hummed and said, "What's there to be afraid of? It's very docile. You won't fall down as long as you hold on to the reins." The little princess clung to Gu Jiao's neck with her two small arms. She did not dare to look back. I'm scared." She refused to get on the horse. Mu Qingqian was not surprised. He had taught the little princess several times, but she failed every time. Gu Jiao paused and asked the little princess, who was trembling in her arms, "Since you're scared, why do you still want to learn? Children don't need to ride horses." The little princess pretended to be fierce and said, "I just want to learn." Gu Jiao looked at Mu Qingqian. Mu Qingqian raised his eyebrows helplessly, indicating that he could do nothing. Gu Jiao thought for a moment and said, "Then can you watch me ride first?" "Okay." The little princess got down from Gu Jiao's arms. Gu Jiao asked the servant in the stable for a mature horse. She rode the horse around the grassland at a moderate speed, so that it would not scare children. Sure enough, her valiant appearance on horseback made the young royal princess restless. Mu Qingqian winked at the servant. The servant brought the white pony over. Mu Qingqian carried the little princess up. "Little princess, try it." "No, no, no." The little princess plunged into Mu Qingqian's arms. Gu Jiao rode the horse over and directly grabbed the little princess onto the horse. Ouch! The little princess lay on the saddle and struggled. The strong wind blew, causing her cheeks to puff up. All the children in the family were tired, including Gu Xiaobao, who was only a few months old. Gu Jiao lacked experience with delicate little girls. In the end, she succeeded in making the little princess cry. After coming out of the grassland, Gu Jiao got into Mu Qingqian's carriage. The little princess cried until she was out of breath. Mu Qingqian went to comfort her. About 15 minutes later, Mu Qingqian returned to the carriage. Gu Jiao wondered if she had failed the interview. She did not expect the little princess to cry so easily. "What a waste of your kindness. Next time." The little princess asked when you will come next time. Gu Jiao was stunned. Mu Qingqian glanced at her. "You don't want to come?" Gu Jiao said, "No, I just find it strange. She is crying so hard. Why does she still want me to come?" Mu Qingqian smiled faintly. "The little princess said that you are the only one who dares to put her on the horse. No one else dares to. She will never learn how to ride a horse with anyone else. Maybe she can do it with you." Well, she was still a stubborn little crybaby. Gu Jiao tilted her head and looked at Mu Qingqian. Mu Qingqian was puzzled by Gu Jiao's look. "What's wrong?" Gu Jiao asked. "Who is the little princess to you?" Mu Qingqian said, "Her father, Yin Shanjun, is a close friend of Dukan. He lived in Duke N's manor when he was young. He taught me how to play chess. He also taught Yinin how to play chess." "Yinin?" Gu Jiao was stunned. "Your childhood playmate?" "Yes." Mu Qingqian nodded. This was the first time Mu Qingqian mentioned the name of his childhood playmate. Gu Jiao felt that the name was a little familiar. She seemed to have heard it somewhere. Yan Shanjun is not in the mansion these days. He has gone on a long journey, Mu Qingqian said as if he was explaining why he didn't take her to visit Yan Shanjun. Gu Jiao said, "Oh, she didn't care about that. She was thinking about that name. Yinin." She couldn't get the name out of her mind. The carriage went out of the mansion. "Young master, where are we going now? Back to the academy?" The coachman asked. Mu Qingqian looked at Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao said, "Let's go back to the academy." She still refused to tell him the address. Mu Qingqian didn't say anything. The carriage went all the way back to the Tianqiong Academy. They came from the southern gate of the city, so they had to pass by there on their way back. It was hot, so Gu Jiao kept the window open. As they approached the city gate, a group of soldiers and horses suddenly appeared on the official road. Leading the group were several officials riding on fine horses. Behind them were a group of able-bodied men in ragged clothes, their hands tied with ropes. Gu Jiao had never been curious about the affairs of the government. She just glanced at them casually, but she didn't expect to see a familiar figure. She pushed the half-open window to the maximum. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel is updated more quickly. Millions of novels are free to read. You can find all the novels that you can't find on the internet here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964286/10763748. HTML Genius memorized the website address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Pavilion Mobile Reading Website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 663. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated more quickly. Millions of novels can be read for free. There are all kinds of novels that can't be found on the internet here. Gu Jiao suspected that she was mistaken. How could she see Gu Qingfeng here? Mu Qingchen, who was resting with his eyes closed, opened his eyes and looked at Gu Jiao in confusion. However, the group of people had turned a corner and went in the opposite direction. Mu Qingchen asked, "What are you looking at?" Gu Jiao sat back in her seat. "I seem to see someone I know." Mu Qingchen looked at the group of people outside the window and looked at Gu Jiao deeply. "Do you know the Han family or those slaves?" Gu Jiao was slightly stunned. "Slaves." Mu Qingchen looked at her and said, "Are you mistaken?" Gu Jiao closed the window. "Maybe I'm mistaken." Gu Qingfeng couldn't have come to the Yan Kingdom, let alone become a slave. There was a mineral vein at the foot of the Dongshan Ridge outside the city of Xingdu, and the Han family was responsible for mining it. Some days ago, there was an accident in the mine and a group of slaves died. The Han family bought a new group of slaves without stopping. Most of these slaves were servants who had been marked as slaves. Some of them were poor people in the Yan Kingdom, some were prisoners who had been severely punished, and some were strong men from the black market. The team stopped at the checkpoint of the mine. The guard looked at the corvée laborers tied up with ropes and clicked his tongue in disdain. These corvée laborers don't look very useful. There aren't many of them who are strong. An officer riding on a horse said, "The market is not good now. It's good to have them. Let's make do with them." The guard said, "Okay, go to work. We're waiting." The officer smiled. "It's so late. Aren't you afraid that something will happen again?" The guard smiled helplessly. "What can I do? It's my superior's order." His mouth said that there was nothing he could do, but his expression was clearly indifferent. Well, they were just a group of lowly slaves. Who would care about their lives? The group of people entered the mine. Several officials found an open space for them to rest. It wasn't that he sympathized with them, but they were already very tired after such a long journey. They needed to rest and eat something to recover their strength. Everyone sat down on the ground. Gu Qingfeng sat at the back, looking inconspicuous. He had been eating and sleeping in the open all this time. He was no longer the young master of an aristocratic family in Zhao country. Not long after, some people brought over the porridge and steamed buns. The corvée laborers all stood up. "Stand properly. Stand properly. Don't move." The official in charge of distributing food lashed out with a whip, and everyone became obedient. Each person had a bowl of porridge and 2 steamed buns. When it was Gu Qingfeng's turn, there was only half a bun left. Gu Qingfeng didn't say anything. He took the bowl of porridge and the hard steamed buns and ate them in big bites. After being hungry a few times, he understood that if he didn't eat fast enough, he would be hungry until the next meal. Sure enough, as soon as he wolfed down half of the steamed bun in his hand, the officer urged them to enter the mine. "Sir, can you give me some more food? I don't have enough to eat. I don't have the strength to work." A corvée laborer over 50 years old cupped his hands and begged the officer. The officer whipped him, causing him to roll on the ground. "Now you have strength." He fell in front of Gu Qingfeng. If it was in the past, Gu Qingfeng would have helped him up. But now Gu Qingfeng didn't do anything. He just silently walked around him and followed the group. The group entered the mine. Some ores were on the surface and could be directly mined. Some ores were underground and needed to be dug into blind shafts. They had been sent to dig a well. There were already a few old corvée laborers digging. "Go get a shovel yourselves," the officer shouted. Everyone hurriedly walked over and picked up a shovel from the ground. They copied the old corvée laborers and started digging. Gu Qingfeng also picked up a shovel and started digging like a professional. They dug until the middle of the night. When everyone was exhausted and had no strength left, they were brought back to a large shared room to rest. Dozens of people were squeezed into one room. The smell was so bad that it was suffocating. Gu Qingfeng lay on a wooden board in the corner. On one side was a corvée laborer, and on the other side was a gray mud wall. Perhaps they were tired. Almost everyone fell asleep as soon as they lay down. After the officer finished checking the room, he locked the door and then turned to leave. In the darkness, Gu Qingfeng slowly opened his eyes. He wasn't here to be a corvée laborer. Since he had already arrived at Chengdu, he didn't need to continue mingling with a group of slaves. He had to think of a way to leave. As he thought about it, he turned over and inadvertently pressed down on the wound on the outside of his right leg. He gasped in shock. Fuck. The mark of a slave was really painful. He couldn't help but swear. After returning to the house, Gu Jiao told her that she was the young princess's writing teacher. After all, she would be visiting often in the future. It was better to tell her family clearly. Madame Nan gave Gu Jiao a bowl of corn rib soup. Which young princess? Is there a princess in the outer city? She knew that a princess was someone with status. Usually she lived in the inner city. Yin Shanjuan's daughter. Gu Jiao said. Yin Shanjun. Madame Nan felt that this title was familiar. But she had left Yin Kingdom for too many years. She couldn't remember it. The emperor's younger brother. Old Mr. Meng said casually. Madame Nan was enlightened. She smiled and said, "Ah yes, the emperor's younger brother. No wonder it sounded familiar." Gu Jiao was surprised. The emperor's younger brother has such a young child? She remembered that Commandery Prince Ming was the crown prince's legitimate son. He was the emperor's grandson. Commandery Prince Ming looked about the same age as Xiaoheng. The emperor was at least the same age as the old duke. Madame Nan said thoughtfully, "I don't know." She didn't deliberately inquire about the royal family. Her understanding of the royal family was limited. Old Mr. Meng drank a mouthful of soup and said calmly, "Yin Shanjun is the Empress Dowager's posthumous son. He is almost 30 years younger than the emperor." Now Gu Jiao understood. Yin Shanjun was the king's youngest brother. His daughter was of the same generation as the crown prince. Didn't that mean that even Commandery Prince Ming had to greet the young Commandery Princess politely when he saw her? Gu Jiao suddenly smiled. This little guy's seniority is quite high. Everyone looked at her with a strange expression. After saying so much, your focus was only on seniority? That was Yin Shanjuan's daughter, the young princess of the royal family. It was said that being with the emperor was like being with a tiger, not to mention the Yin Kingdom's royal family. Madame Nan was somewhat worried. Old Mr. Meng seemed to be knowledgeable. She asked old Mr. Meng, "Is this Yin Shanjun easy to get along with?" If his temper was bad, he would rather give up this job. Yin Shanjun is fine. Old Mr. Meng said and glanced at Gu Jiao. "You didn't make the young princess cry, did you?" Gu Jiao said seriously. "No, how could I make her cry?" Old Mr. Meng nodded. "That's good. The emperor dotes on this young princess very much. Those who made her cry were all killed by the emperor." Gu Jiao was speechless. Early the next morning, Gu Jiao practiced the red-tasseled spear as usual. She didn't know if it was because she saw Gu Qingfeng, but Gu Jiao thought of the whip that she had neglected for many days. She also took it out and practiced for a while. After that, Gu Jiao and Gu Xiaoshan went to the academy. When Gu Jiao arrived at the gate of the academy, she was stopped by a luxurious carriage. A young man in luxurious clothes came out of the carriage. It was Han Che. Han Che looked at Gu Jiao with a faint smile. He turned and opened the curtain to let another man in luxurious clothes come out of the carriage. Gu Jiao had seen him before. He was Prince Ming, who had come to the academy to look for Mu Qingchen. This Prince Ming was very active. He was very close to the young masters of the aristocratic families. He didn't care if these young masters had disagreements with each other. Gu Jiao thought that he was here to look for Mu Qingchen again. She turned around and planned to go around the carriage to enter the academy. Unexpectedly, Han Che stopped her. "Hey Xiao Lulang. Stop right there." Gu Jiao didn't stop. Han Che sucked in a cold breath. Prince Ming's bodyguards quickly stepped forward and blocked Gu Jiao's way. Gu Jiao frowned impatiently. "You go in first," she said to Gu Xiaoshan. Gu Xiaoshan wanted to stay, but she thought of something and her eyes flashed. "Okay, I'll go in first." The bodyguards didn't stop Gu Xiaoshan. Gu Jiao turned around and looked at the two of them. "What's the matter?" Her unruly and arrogant attitude made Prince Ming frown slightly. However, Han Che was very satisfied with this result. What he wanted was for Xiao Lu to anger Commandery Prince Ming. Prince Ming didn't seem to want to reveal his identity. He quickly hid his displeasure and said to Gu Jiao in a pleasant manner, "I'm a friend of Mu Qingchen. I came to the academy last time." "So?" Gu Jiao looked at him indifferently. She was just short of saying that it was none of her business. Prince Ming was a direct descendant of the royal family. He had grown up with a silver spoon in his mouth, and had never been disrespected by anyone. However, when he thought that Gu Jiao didn't know his identity, he felt relieved. He didn't want to give Han Che face, but he didn't want to give himself face. Thinking of this, Prince Ming smiled gently again. "I don't mean anything else. You are Qingchen's classmate, and I am Qingchen's friend. I just want to get to know you." Han Che pursed his lips. Didn't he tell Prince Ming that Xiao Lulang was just a commoner? Why was he being so polite to him? Prince Ming wasn't being polite to Xiao Lulang, but to Mu Qingchen. Mu Qingchen occupied 3 of the top 10 families in Chengdu. If he could win over Mu Qingchen, it would be equivalent to winning over the Su family, the Mu family, and the Wang family. "I'm not interested," Gu Jiao said. Han Che said coldly, "Hey, do you know who you are talking to? Don't be ungrateful. You want to do this the hard way." "Hey young Master Han, please don't be angry. Let's talk nicely." Since Han Che was playing the good cop, he might as well play the bad cop. He smiled and said to Gu Jiao, "I was caught up with something at the last minute during the archery competition, so I couldn't see it with my own eyes. I heard that you have a very powerful horse. Can I have a look?" "No." Gu Jiao refused immediately. Prince Ming almost choked on his own blood. Did she think that it wouldn't work if she didn't reveal her identity? Han Che added oil to the fire and mocked, "Xiao Lulang, this young master beside me just wants to see your horse. Even if he wants your horse, you have to give it to him. Do you understand?" Gu Jiao looked at the two indifferently. "So, you are here to steal my horse?" Prince Ming frowned. He was just here to take a look, but he really wanted to steal it. Since he was young, no one had dared to disobey him. This person was too ignorant. Even if he didn't reveal his identity, his royal aura was enough to intimidate him. Inside the gate of the book, the students of the academy who had caught a glimpse of this scene exclaimed that they were doomed. That person was the crown prince's legitimate son. Ever since the crown princess was dethroned, he had become the crown prince's eldest grandson. He wanted to steal Liulong's horse. Even if Gu Xiaoshan called young Master Qingchen, there was nothing he could do. "What's going on? Why are you all crowding here? Don't you need to go to class?" President Sun walked over and asked. The students turned around. One of them whispered, "President, Prince Ming is here. He wants to steal Liulong's horse." "What?" President Sun's expression changed. He looked outside and saw Prince Ming and Han Che opposite Gu Jiao. Prince Ming didn't even come to watch the competition yesterday. How did he know about Liulong's horse? It was most likely that Han Che wanted Liulong's horse but couldn't do it himself. After all, he couldn't defeat Mu Qingchen, so he lured Prince Ming here. There was nothing Prince Ming couldn't get if he wanted it. It was over. Liulong's horse couldn't be saved. How is this stealing? Prince Ming smiled faintly. Although he said that he wouldn't steal it, the brocade guard beside him had already placed his hand on the hilt of his sword. Just as Prince Ming was about to order his men to draw their swords, a horse carriage sped over and stopped beside Gu Jiao. The curtains of the horse carriage were lifted, and a delicate little girl jumped out. "What are you doing?" she asked in a childish voice. Commandery Prince Ming was shocked. The little princess, who was not even 5 years old, jumped out of the horse carriage and walked up to Prince Ming. She raised her tender face and asked sternly, "Why aren't you greeting us? How embarrassing." They were all humans. Prince Ming frowned and clasped his hands together. He braced himself and bowed. "Little aunt." The little princess looked at him and then at Gu Jiao. "What were you doing just now?" Prince Ming thought about how the little girl loved to complain in front of the monarch. He gave the guard a look, and the guard put down his sword. Prince Ming smiled. "Nothing. I just came here to make a friend." "Is that so?" the little princess asked Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao crossed her arms. "No. He wanted to steal my horse." Prince Ming was speechless. The little princess's face fell. "Carry me." Her personal maid immediately carried the expressionless young commandery princess up. The little princess stretched out her chubby hand and slapped Prince Ming on the head. She said fiercely, "You brat! How dare you bully my teacher?" Digression. It was time for the fourth watch of the night. Thank you for your concern. I feel much better now. The latest chapter of the book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. You can find all the novels that you can't find online. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_896428226/1076333810. HTML Genius memorized the website's address. www.zhhbqg.com Bikugo mobile reading website. zhhbqg.com. Chapter 664. Please scan the QR code below to download the app for more interesting content. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with a deeper meaning that you can't find online are all available here. The slap was not very harmful, but it was extremely insulting. With so many people watching, Commandery Prince Ming lost all his dignity and dignity. Not to mention that he didn't reveal his identity, other than Xiao Lulang, that poor countryman with poor eyesight, who couldn't recognize the Crown Prince Mansion's brocade guard. He was puzzled. How did this young fellow become his little fellow's teacher? What was going on? Wait, the angry Prince Ming suddenly thought of an important point. He looked angrily at the young princess in front of him and pointed at Gu Jiao. He gritted his teeth and said, "Why didn't you believe me when I said I was here to make friends? Why did you believe her when she said I was here to steal your horse? What you did was unfair." The young princess choked. She suddenly felt a little guilty. She did seem to be unfair just now. However, the young princess also wanted to save her face. She would never admit her mistake. She rolled her eyes and said sternly, "Isn't that because you're always lying? You have a bad record and your words are not trustworthy. You are not trustworthy. You." Prince Ming was so angry that he almost died of anger. Not only did she hit him in front of everyone, she even exposed his shortcomings. The young princess found reasonable evidence to support herself, and suddenly became bold and confident. "Are you still not going to admit it? Last year, you secretly went cockfighting and were caught by the Crown Prince's cousin. This year, you cheated and asked someone to write an essay for you. Last month, you even lied to the emperor. Do you think I'm a child and don't remember?" He was finished. He was completely finished. He was exposed by the little fellow. Actually, it was a small matter. Cockfighting was just for fun. He cheated because he was too lazy to do his homework. It was not that he did not know how to do it. As for lying, how could it be called lying? He said he missed the emperor day and night. Was there anything wrong with that? How could there be such an infuriating child in this world? Prince Ming could not be calculative with the young princess. Not only could he not be calculative, but he also had to coax her and give in to her. Otherwise, she would go to the emperor and complain about him. After all, she loved to complain. Could he go and complain about it? Of course it was possible, but wouldn't it be embarrassing? How old was the young princess? How old was he? Little royal princess did not know that royal Prince Ming was giving in to her, because she was young. She always thought that it was because of her seniority and that he could not be unfilial. Because of the sudden appearance of the young princess, Commandery Prince Ming had no choice but to leave. Before he left, the young princess even bowed to him. Dean Sin and all the students who were secretly watching the show heaved a sigh of relief. The young princess came at the right time. Otherwise, who would be able to deal with Commandery Prince Ming? Speaking of which, the young princess had said that she would not allow Royal Prince Ming to bully her teacher. Which teacher was she talking about? Xiao Lulang? At this moment, Mu Qingqian was called over by Gu Xiaoshan in a hurry. However, he found that Commandery Prince Ming and Han Che had already left. All his plans were in vain. Princess, why are you here? Mu Qingqian greeted the young princess. Put me down, the young princess said. The servant girl put the young princess down. In fact, the young princess was not often carried by others. That would make her seem very small. She always remembered that she was an elder. The young princess pointed at Gu Jiao and said to Mu Qingqian, I'm here to look for her. Gu Jiao asked curiously, Why are you looking for me? To ride a horse. The young princess said, Yesterday, when I asked you what time you would be coming over, you did not give me a definite answer. Oh, so she still had to reply. She thought that she could just go over after school. Gu Jiao reflected seriously. It's my fault. I'll be more careful next time. She did not have the burden of an adult in front of a child. The young princess was very satisfied with her attitude. She hated it when people talked nonsense and made up all kinds of excuses to fool her like she was a child. For example, her unfilial nephew, Royal Prince Ming. The young princess looked at Gu Jiao and said, Then you can tell me now. Gu Jiao said, After school today, I'll go over to look for you. After school ends at 5 p.m. I'll be there for half an hour. The young princess nodded. Okay, it's a deal. Then she bid farewell to Gu Jiao and Mu Qingqian, and went back in the carriage. Gu Jiao was a little confused. She came all the way here just to ask about the time of school. She did not understand the world of the royal little boy. On the other hand, in the mine surrounded by mountains, Gu Qingfeng and the others dug the well for the whole day. The weather was hot and some of the corvée laborers collapsed on the ground from heatstroke. Gu Qingfeng also suffered from heatstroke. He felt nauseous and weak, but he was not paralyzed. His sleeves were rolled up high, revealing his tan skin. Every time he chiseled, the firm but not overly exaggerated muscles on his arms could be seen. Finally, it was dusk. The corvée laborers were almost paralyzed with exhaustion. Gu Qingfeng was so tired that he sat on a rock and panted with sweat all over his back. Such days had started since he entered the Yin Kingdom. If he was not in the mine, he was in other places. In short, he did not have a single day of peace. During the war, he had experienced the pain of life and death, but he had never experienced the pain of trampling on his dignity. His hands had long been rubbed with thick calluses. Today, even the calluses were broken and painful blood blisters grew on his hands. He did not even frown. He untied an old water bag from his waist and drank a mouthful of water mixed with sand. It's time to eat. An officer shouted. Although they were tired, they still had to eat. Everyone dragged their tired bodies and staggered to the shelter where they received their meals. Gu Qingfeng was not the last one this time. He took the first place and got a bowl of thick porridge and 2 big cornmeal steamed buns. Then he found an empty space and sat down, wolfing down the food. Judging from the weather, it was going to rain tonight. Because of this, they did not need to continue digging the well tonight. They were afraid that they would be buried in the well. After the meal, everyone was escorted back to the shared bunk, and was not allowed to enter or leave without permission. The weather was extremely hot. The shared bunk was full of 20 to 30 people. It was like a steamer, and the unpleasant smell kept fermenting in the room. Gu Qingfeng laid on the innermost wooden board. His expression did not change at all. It was as if he was used to this smell. About an hour later, dark clouds covered the sky, and the sky darkened all of a sudden. Not long after, the sky began to flash with lightning and thunder. Gu Chengfeng understood that the opportunity to escape had come. After the last person in the shared bunk fell asleep, Gu Chengfeng got off the bed and quietly walked to the door. The door was locked from the outside. It was impossible to pry it open. He did not have any tools and could only use his internal force to open it. But he could not alert the patrolling guards. He could only wait for the next thunder. A white flash of lightning flashed, and the ants on the ground were clearly illuminated. Now was the time. With a loud bang, Gu Chengfeng broke the bronze lock with a caw-caw sound. He opened the door and walked out. He wrapped the broken lock with his hair, and pretended to lock it back. The thunder gradually stopped and heavy rain poured down. Gu Chengfeng ran into the heavy rain without looking back. The heavy rain could cover his tracks and also hide the presence of the guards. He needed to be more careful than usual. He did not want to bump into them and be caught on the spot. Why is it raining so suddenly? My clothes are all wet. I don't know if we can start work tomorrow. What about the officials? They don't want us to dig a well anyway. Gu Chengfeng hid behind a large tree and allowed the two patrolling guards to pass by him in a hurry not far away. When the two walked far away, he continued to run towards the checkpoint. There were also guards at the checkpoint. He had observed that this was the only exit. The other places were filled with poisonous grass and traps. He waited in the rain for a while. The guard seemed to be tired and started to nap. Gu Chengfeng silently flashed in front of him. It would be a lie to say that he was not nervous. His heart was in his throat. Fortunately, he was not discovered and he successfully left the mine. Then he ran in the direction he came from. His clothes were soaked in the heavy rain. He did not dare to stop for a moment. He was afraid that the group of people would catch up. He did not know how long he ran. He ran until his legs almost did not belong to him. He came to a secluded official road. He held onto a tree by the side of the road and gasped for breath. Suddenly, the sound of horse hooves came from afar. There is only one official road here. He must have gone this way. It was the officials of the mine. They found out that he had escaped so quickly. Gu Chengfeng gritted his teeth and looked up at the branches above his head. He jumped onto the branches. Fortunately, there was no thunder now. Otherwise, even if he was not caught and beaten to death, he would have been struck to death by lightning. Go! The group of people ran under the big tree. Hearing the sound of horse hooves getting farther and farther away, Gu Chengfeng leaned against the tree trunk and panted. Only after he sat down did he feel the pain in his leg. The place where the slave mark was branded with a soldering iron had not healed. Now that it was in the rain, it hurt like a drill. The latest chapter of this book is not finished. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that cannot be found on the internet are all here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_8964286/1076191141. HTML Genius remembered the website address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Biku Pavilion Mobile Reading Website. zhhbqg.com. Chapter 665. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. More novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are all kinds of novels that can't be found on the internet here. In Tianqiong Academy, the weather was not good when school was about to end. The classroom was stuffy and sticky, and everyone felt out of breath. The doors and windows were wide open, but it was still difficult for a cool breeze to blow in. The students who came here to study were not from poor families. Everyone was quite fastidious and didn't smell too bad. Gu Jiao sat in the last row. Mu Qingchen was on her left, and the back door was on her right. She could breathe enough fresh air from her seat. Zhou Tong, who was in the front row, was sleepy. First, the weather was stuffy. Second, he stayed up late to paint again. In the lecture, Teacher Gao was explaining the Pythagorean theorem, which was the Pythagorean theorem that Gu Jiao had learned in her previous life. Zhou Tong. Teacher Gao suddenly called out his name. Zhou Tong trembled and stood up with a confused expression. Teacher Gao said lightly, "You can answer this question." "What's the answer?" Zhou Tong swallowed. What kind of question was this? What did he mean by the answer? 80, Gu Jiao whispered expressionlessly. Mu Qingchen looked at Gu Jiao strangely. Zhou Tong straightened his back and said loudly, 80. Teacher Gao looked at Zhou Tong suspiciously, and then looked behind Zhou Tong. There were only two people behind Zhou Tong, Mu Qingchen and Xiao Lulang. Mu Qingchen would not tell the answer, and Xiao Lulang never listened in class. He always copied his homework. Okay, Teacher Gao answered and asked Zhou Tong to sit down. Zhou Tong was relieved and raised his sleeve to wipe the cold sweat on his forehead. After class, Mu Qingchen picked up the questions left by Teacher Gao and pointed to one question. He asked Gu Jiao, "What's the answer?" "I don't know," Gu Jiao said without hesitation. "What about this question?" Mu Qingchen changed the question. "I don't know," Gu Jiao said. Mu Qingchen frowned and looked at her. "Why do you know when Zhou Tong asks you?" "Zhou Tong doesn't know how to do it, and you don't know how to do it either?" Gu Jiao said casually. "I don't know how to do it. I just guessed it." Not long after, Gu Xiaoshan ran over to Gu Jiao. "Lulang, let's go back." Gu Jiao began to pack her bag. She looked indifferent, as if she had no interest in studying. Mu Qingchen looked at her deeply and asked, "Have you ever thought about taking the imperial examinations?" "I'm not from the Yin Kingdom," Gu Jiao said. Mu Qingchen said, "Any student of the academy can take part in the imperial examination." The Yin Kingdom was a superior country that paid great attention to talents. This could be seen from the fact that they had opened underground martial arts arenas in various countries to select martial arts geniuses. Although the imperial examinations mostly prioritized the examinees from their own country, if the examinees were truly outstanding, they would still be accepted as exceptions. There was no lack of such precedents over the years. If he passed the examination, a mere inner-city talisman would be nothing. It was not impossible for him to become a permanent resident of the Yin Kingdom. "Don't you want to stay in the Yin Kingdom?" Mu Qingchen asked. "Is there even 1 out of 1,000 examinees who can stay?" Gu Jiao asked in reply. It was difficult. The imperial examination of the Yin Kingdom was the most difficult one among the 6 countries. It not only covered a wide range of subjects, but also had the largest number of examinees. 80% of the examinees were from their own country, and the remaining 20% were excellent students from the other 5 countries. The examinees from their own country had extra points, and so did the examinees from the Liang Kingdom and the Jin State. Only the examinees from the lower country had the cruelest screening system. Therefore, it was not difficult for Gu Jiao to stand out from the other examinees. Mu Qingchen said, "I think you can give it a try." Gu Jiao waved her hand and said, "Forget it." She would have to kneel if she had to write the 8-legged essay. It would be better if Xiaoheng did it. How about the military examination? Mu Qingchen saw that she was not interested in the literary examination, so he changed the topic. Gu Jiao was confused. "Why are you suddenly so interested in my examination?" Mu Qingchen emphasized again. "If you pass the examination, you can stay in the Yin Kingdom." Gu Jiao raised her eyebrows and looked at him. "Why should I stay in the Yin Kingdom? Or do you want me to stay in the Yin Kingdom?" "Mu Qingchen, you don't like me, do you?" "You?" Mu Qingchen was speechless. He turned his face coldly and said, "You are a man. How can I like you?" "Good." Gu Jiao put the last book in and picked up the bag. "Let's go. It's going to rain." Mu Qingchen looked at her back and reminded her. Gu Jiao didn't look back. She just waved her hand to show that she knew. "Sister, it seems that it's going to rain. It's getting dark." On the path out of the academy, Gu Xiaoshan looked at the dark clouds overhead and said, "Are you still going to teach that little princess?" "Yes," Gu Jiao said. The little guy was too serious. He came to the academy just by asking her a question. She was afraid that if she didn't go, The little guy would come to her house in the rain. Although she couldn't attend the class even if she went, she had to show up so that the little guy wouldn't be disappointed. Then I'll drive you there, Gu Xiaoshan said. Since the Horse King was only 2.5 years old, the family seldom let the Horse King pull the carriage. They usually only let it pull the mill. Fortunately, there was a horse at home. Gu Xiaoshan took the horse out and put it on the shaft of the carriage. Then he went into the house to get a cloak and a straw raincoat. When he came out, the Horse King was the one pulling the carriage. The horse stood far away in the alley. Gu Xiaoshan was stunned and scratched his head. What's going on? Who changed it? Why is it you? He took the shaft of the carriage from the Horse King and pulled it in. Then he took the horse over and put it on. Xiaoshan, eat something before you go. Madame Nen called him in the house. I'll bring 2 steamed buns. Gu Xiaoshan hurried into the house. When he came out with the steamed buns, the horse pulling the carriage became the Horse King again. Know this, Gu Xiaoshan was confused. Sister. Gu Jiao came out and looked at the Horse King. Then she looked at the horse that was frightened by the Horse King and said, Come out. The Horse King didn't move. It meant that it had to go out. Gu Xiaoshan said, Sister. Gu Jiao said, Forget it. You go in the house. I'll go by myself. Oh. Gu Xiaoshan scratched his head and turned to go into the house. Actually, I'm not heavy. Gu Jiao sat in the carriage. The Horse King whizzed and the carriage went away. The Horse King was very fast. Gu Jiao didn't get wet on the way. It didn't start to rain until they entered the mansion. The rain didn't stop and showed no signs of letting up. Gu Chengfeng hid in a big tree for a while. In the end, he was still found. He didn't know how they found him. He clearly didn't reveal any flaws. There were a total of 4 officials. Their martial arts weren't weak. If it was in the past, it wouldn't be difficult for Gu Chengfeng to deal with them. However, the wound on his leg was too painful. He escaped with minor injuries. The 4 people were seriously injured and fell to the ground. They wouldn't be able to catch up for a while. He was afraid that there would be a second wave of officials chasing after him. It was just a slave. In Gu Chengfeng's view, there was no need to make such a big fuss. However, he also understood that they weren't catching a slave. It was the rules. If everyone followed his example and left, then who would be so dead set on working in the mines? They wanted to catch him and kill him as an example. Gu Chengfeng walked along the official road. He didn't know how long he walked, but he finally came to a bustling street. Chengdu was more prosperous than Jiaodu. Even though it was raining heavily, there were still many vendors on both sides of the street. The pedestrians on the road were hurried, and the shops were full. Gu Chengfeng braved the heavy rain and walked on the wet street with one foot in the other. His head hurt and his body was a little cold. Suddenly he was bumped into by a man walking towards him. The man scolded, "Don't you look where you're going?" Gu Chengfeng ignored him. He didn't understand anyway. On the way to Chengdu, he was locked up with a group of slaves from a lower country. There weren't many opportunities to learn the language of the Yan Kingdom. After walking for a while, he had a splitting headache and his mind was dizzy. According to his previous experience of being sick, he should have a high fever. He found an open space under the eaves and sat down against the cold wall. "Hey, go away." The beggar on the side scolded, "This is my territory." Gu Chengfeng glanced at him and was too lazy to move. The beggar pointed at the brand on the outside of his right calf with a stick. "So you're a slave? Then you dare to fight with me for territory?" In the Yan Kingdom, the status of slaves was lower than that of beggars. They were not people, but goods, cats and dogs. Gu Chengfeng didn't understand what he was saying. He was too tired and just wanted to rest for a while. He didn't want to cause trouble. But this person was too noisy and even hit him with a stick. Gu Chengfeng could pinch him to death with his fingers, but he was just an old beggar with a lame leg. Why bother with this kind of person? In the past, Gu Chengfeng would bother. But now he wouldn't. After experiencing more injustice and abuse, this kind of unfriendliness was not worth mentioning at all. Gu Chengfeng couldn't stand the noise and dragged his tired body away. He fell in an alley full of water. People came and went in the alley. No one noticed that a person had fainted here. Finally, a carriage stopped nearby. and a gorgeously dressed middle-aged woman walked into the rouge shop with a young maid in a flirtatious manner. When the two came out of the rouge shop, the little maid inadvertently glanced and saw the figure on the ground. "Mother, there's someone over there." In the Yen Kingdom, only the brothel madam could be called mother. The middle-aged woman stared at her and said, "How many times have I said, we're not a brothel? It's changed to a theater. Call me madam." "Madam." "Yes, madam." The maid hurriedly changed her words, thinking that a theater was similar to a brothel. "Alive or dead?" The middle-aged woman looked at the person in the alley. Gu Qingfeng was lying on the ground. His body was tall, and the bones of his hands were delicate and slender. "Oh, you're quite pretty." The middle-aged woman and the maid walked over with an umbrella. The maid squatted down and touched his neck. "He's still breathing." He seems to be talking." The maid put her ear close to his neck. "What did he say?" the middle-aged woman asked. "He doesn't seem to be from Shengdu. The language of the Yen Kingdom is so strange." The maid listened carefully for a while and finally understood a few words. He said Tianqiong Academy. "Madam, is he a student of Tianqiong Academy?" The middle-aged woman glanced at the ragged Gu Qingfeng. "Have you seen a student of Tianqiong Academy dressed like this?" The maid said, "That's true." The middle-aged woman was experienced. She directly lifted Gu Qingfeng's trousers with her foot and saw the brand on it. She smiled coldly. "So he's a slave. Okay, take him back." Gu Qingfeng was carried into the carriage by the maid and the coachman and thrown on the cold floor. The maid lifted the curtain and looked at the approaching carriage. She said curiously, "Madam, look, that carriage doesn't have a coachman." The middle-aged woman wiped the water droplets on her body with a handkerchief. "His horse is obedient. What's so strange about that?" "It's just that the horse is jumping around happily like a fool." The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more complete. Millions of novels are free to read. There are novels with connotations that can't be found on the internet here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_896428226/1076133323. HTML Genius memorized this website's address. www.zhhbqg.com Biku Pavilion Mobile Reading Website. zhhbqg.com. Chapter 666. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more frequently. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. This was the first time the young maid had seen a horse pulling a carriage by itself. The horse was quite interesting and was jumping around happily. She couldn't help but lift the curtain and watch. The Horse King was a crazy person. The more people looked at it, the more it jumped around. Gu Jiao sat in the carriage with her eyes closed to rest. In the end, the carriage swayed and swayed, causing her to faint. She lifted the curtain and said to the Horse King, "Pull your carriage properly." The Horse King immediately withered and obediently walked a few steps. As if it was testing Gu Jiao's bottom line, it jumped around again. "Gu Jiao." The young maidservant chuckled. Gu Jiao subconsciously glanced at her. The young maid probably realized that she had lost her composure and bowed to Gu Jiao to express her apology. Then she lowered the curtain. Gu Jiao looked away. The two carriages passed by each other. For some reason, Gu Jiao felt a strange feeling in her heart. It was an indescribable feeling. She knitted her brows and lifted the curtain to look to the side. The carriage had already moved in front of her, and her carriage had turned into the alley. That's right, the alley where Gu Qingfeng had fainted was the road they had taken to come here. Naturally, they had to pass through here on their way back. If the middle-aged woman hadn't taken Gu Qingfeng away, Gu Jiao would have met him by now. Unfortunately, Gu Jiao didn't know. However, when they passed through the alley, the strange feeling in her heart was magnified. There were more puddles in the alley than on the street. The Horse King couldn't help but want to step into the puddles. It started to jump around again, repeatedly testing the waters at the edge of where Gu Jiao would beat it to death. However, this time, it didn't jump for long before it suddenly stopped. The disadvantage of letting the Horse King drive on autopilot was that sometimes it would run off to play with itself. However, when it had enough, it would always pull the carriage back. As long as it didn't take too long, Gu Jiao wouldn't scold it. Gu Jiao waited quietly. However, the situation this time was different. The Horse King was very quiet. The Horse King sniffed and bit on something. Then it shook off the shaft of the carriage, turned around, and stuck its head into the carriage. What happened? Gu Jiao looked at the Horse King that suddenly appeared in front of her, and saw a mask in its mouth. The mask had been soaked in water and was stained with a little mud, but it did not prevent Gu Jiao from recognizing it. It was Gu Jiao's mask. Or to be more precise, it was Gu Jiao's mask. Gu Chengfeng had stolen it from Gu Chengfeng. Later on, when Gu Chengfeng had a new one, she had stolen the new one and returned the old one to Gu Chengfeng. The reason why the Horse King picked up the mask was probably because it smelled Gu Jiao's scent on it, and thought that Gu Jiao had dropped it. Gu Jiao took the mask. She looked at it over and over again, and confirmed that it was the first mask she had stolen from Gu Chengfeng. In fact, if it was just a mask, Gu Jiao might not recognize it. However, the Horse King would not pick up an unfamiliar item. Then, she thought of the figure she had seen near the inner city gate that day. Could it be that Gu Chengfeng had really come? Then where was he? Where did he go? The heavy rain poured down and the carriage struggled to move through the gradually deserted streets. The horses were tired and had arrived at their destination. The carriage stopped in front of a richly ornamented opera house. "Madam, we're here," the coachman said loudly. The middle-aged lady's snoring stopped abruptly. She sat up and used her sleeve to wipe her saliva. She coughed lightly and frowned. "We're here. What are you shouting for?" She got off the carriage and found two servants to carry the person in the carriage down. The servants were used to this kind of thing and quickly carried the person into the opera house. It was reasonable to say that this kind of newcomer should be placed in the firewood room. However, after the middle-aged lady lifted the hair on Gu Qingfeng's face and looked at his face, she immediately had someone clean up a room for him. "Mother! Madam!" The servant girl called her wrongly again and hurriedly changed her words. "Why did you give him a room?" The middle-aged lady snorted and said, "There aren't many men with this kind of appearance. Ever since those foxes came to Spring Wind Pavilion, all the business on the street has been stolen by them. Your mother, cough. Your madam, I have to take good care of him and let him bring back more business for me." The servant girl curled her lips. "What if he doesn't want to?" The middle-aged lady sneered. "Oh, do you think he can do as he pleases?" After the servant put Gu Chengfeng in the room, the middle-aged lady asked someone to change him into dry clothes. Gu Chengfeng was lying on the soft bed. His clothes were half open, revealing half of his strong chest. He had been whipped and there were deep whip marks on his chest. Tsk, who did this?" The middle-aged lady sat down on the bed and happily untied Gu Chengfeng's clothes. She looked up and down with satisfaction. "Oh, look at this body. Mother, I have picked up a treasure today. Ginkgo." "Madam." The servant girl came over. The middle-aged woman smiled and said, "Go get the best bottle of golden sore medicine and jade snow ointment from my room. I want him to be clean and not leave a single whip mark." The servant girl hesitated for a moment and said, "But he seems to be sick. He didn't wake up the whole way. Will he die soon?" The middle-aged lady fiercely glared at her. "You are the one who is dying. How can you curse me like this?" The servant girl whispered, I wasn't talking about you." The middle-aged lady snorted. "He is a money tree that I picked up. If you curse him to die, you are cursing me to have no money to earn." The servant girl was speechless. The middle-aged lady closed Gu Qingfeng's clothes. "Don't just stand here. Go and invite Dr. Liu. Do you really want to see him die?" Dr. Liu was a doctor nearby and happened to be at home. The servant girl quickly invited him over. Dr. Liu gave a prescription, and the middle-aged lady asked the servant girl to get the medicine. Gu Qingfeng woke up in the middle of decocting the medicine. His head was groggy and his consciousness was not as good as before. However, he could recognize that this was not the alley where he fell. There were some strange people in the room. Why were they strange? First, because their clothes were too luxurious. Second, because they were doing something at the moment. Is it not done yet? The middle-aged lady asked. Soon. The servant girl took a pestle and stirred the medicine in the bowl. She took 2 leaves from the basket and threw them in. She poured the medicine into the bowl, and took out a small jar to pour the medicine in. Not long after, a black light seemed to flash out of the small jar. The servant girl quickly caught it with a porcelain bottle. "It's out, madam," she said. "Use it on him," the middle-aged lady said. "Oh." The servant girl turned and walked towards Gu Qingfeng. Gu Qingfeng's intuition told him that this was not something good. He calmed down and used his remaining strength to lift the quilt. "Ah, you're awake," the servant girl exclaimed. Gu Qingfeng suddenly stood up. He did not know if it was because he stood up too quickly, or because he was too weak. He only felt a wave of dizziness and fell back down. "Hurry and use it on him," the middle-aged lady said. The servant girl reached out to grab Gu Qingfeng, but was pushed away by Gu Qingfeng. The servant girl cried out, and bumped into the pillar behind her. Seeing this, the middle-aged lady frowned. He was so sick but he could still push people away. Was he that strong? She coldly said. "Someone come. Hold him down." 2 manservants pushed the door open and entered, quickly walking towards Gu Qingfeng. Gu Qingfeng's fever was muddled and his body was weak. He could not use his usual skills. After struggling a few times, he was pressed onto the bed by the servants who knew martial arts. The middle-aged lady sighed and looked down at him. "Be obedient and I will not treat you unfairly." "Let me go," Gu Qingfeng weakly said. The middle-aged lady did not understand Xiaoguo language. She smiled and said, "I'm not going to poison you." "Why are you running? You are just a lowly servant. It is your good fortune to be chosen by me. Why are you resisting?" The servant girl suddenly held the bowl in her hand and said, "Madam, the Gu worm is about to die. Hurry and feed it to him." "Give it to me." The middle-aged lady reached out her hand. The servant girl handed the bowl to the middle-aged lady. This kind of worm was their brothel. No, now it should be the theater. It was a method used to control people. No one could resist its medicinal properties. If they did not take the antidote every month, it would be like being bitten by thousands of ants. "Pry open his mouth," the middle-aged lady coldly said. The servants pried open Gu Qingfeng's mouth. The middle-aged lady took the Gu worm and poured it into Gu Qingfeng's mouth. Gu Qingfeng suddenly had strength from who knows where and kicked her away. He broke free from the 2 servants' evil clutches and ran to the door. He opened the door and ran out. The middle-aged lady held her painful stomach and gritted her teeth. "This is my territory. Do you think you can run away?" Jiaoxi. With her order, a black-clothed expert descended from the sky and sent Gu Qingfeng flying to the ground with one palm. Gu Qingfeng's chest hurt, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Jiaoxi grabbed Gu Qingfeng's clothes and pulled him up from the ground. He raised his other hand and viciously threw it at Gu Qingfeng's face. With this punch, even if Gu Qingfeng did not die, he would be crippled. At the moment of life and death, the door to the hall on the first floor was kicked down by someone. The huge commotion shocked everyone. Jiaoxi's fist stopped, and he coldly looked towards the first floor. He saw a youth wearing the uniform of a certain school appear at the door with a cold expression. Lightning flashed behind him, and his entire body was filled with killing intent. He was like an Asura that had walked out of purgatory. "Let him go," the youth said coldly. Jiaoxi's brows furrowed. He admitted that he had been shocked by the youth's aura for a moment. But when the other spoke, he was sure this was a living person. How could this be an Asura from hell? He once again threw a punch at Gu Qingfeng. The youth's palm was facing down. His arm shook and a dagger fell. The youth spun in his hand and the youth threw it out. Jiaoxi did not see the dagger's trajectory clearly. He only saw a silver light flash by. The next second, his right hand was viciously stabbed. The dagger had a terrifying force that nailed his hand to the wall. His body was also sent flying towards the wall. He could not help but let go of his other hand. Gu Qingfeng fell to the ground. Zhao Si endured the pain to pull out the dagger. He could not pull it out. It was also at this time that he realized how strong the youth was. He used a tremendous amount of strength to finally pull out the dagger. He turned around to attack the youth, but before he could stand up, he was kicked in the jaw by the youth who had appeared in front of him. This was a roundhouse kick that sent him flying from the second floor. He landed heavily on the table in the hall on the first floor. The table was smashed to pieces and he fainted from the fall. When the middle-aged madam came out and saw this scene, she was completely stunned. Who was this boy? How did he beat Zhao Si to this state? It had to be known that Zhao Si was a death warrior that she had spent a lot of money to buy. He had never suffered at the hands of an expert before. Where did this stinking brat come from? Daring to cause trouble in my brothel. Do you know who I am? Ah! Before she could finish her sentence, the young man had already walked over and grabbed her by the neck, pushing her against the wall unceremoniously. She felt a sharp pain in her back, and wanted to spit out a mouthful of blood. The youth looked up and coldly stared at her. Who told you to touch him? Him? Which him? Was it that slave? Madam, are you still going to give this goo worm? Ah. The servant girl held the bowl and froze in fear. Bring it over. The youth said to her. The servant girl trembled as she walked over with the bowl. The youth looked at the middle-aged madam who could not breathe and had a purple face. Feed it to her. The servant girl was so scared that she was about to cry. To feed or not to feed? Would she die if she didn't feed her? The youth expressionlessly said. If I don't feed you, then eat it yourself. The servant girl steeled her heart, reached out, and pointed the bowl at her madam's mouth. The middle-aged madam hurriedly turned her face away. Young hero, please spare my life. Young hero, please spare my life. I didn't do it on purpose. I didn't know he was your slave. If I had known, I wouldn't have dared to pick him up. Madam, the officers are here. They're searching the tavern next door. It seems like a slave escaped from the Han family's mine. The middle-aged madam looked at Gu Qingfeng on the ground. Gu Qingfeng's body stiffened. The middle-aged madam suddenly realized, he's an escaped slave from the Han family? The youth's eyes flashed with murderous intent. The middle-aged madam's head went cold. That's right, for a moment, she did think that it would be great if the officers came and arrested them. Then she would be saved. But now it seemed that was not the case. The middle-aged madam panicked. Don't kill me. I won't say anything. I won't say anything. The youth clearly did not believe her. The youth tiptoed and picked up the dagger on the ground, grabbed it with his hand, and placed it on her neck. The middle-aged madam's expression changed. Don't kill me. Don't kill me. I have a way to help you hide from the officers. If you kill me, you'll be exposed. It's not worth it. Spare my life. I promise that no one will find him. Half an hour later, the officers finished searching the next door and came over. The lobby was cleaned up briefly, and Zhao Si was taken away. However, the door that the youth kicked down did not have time to be fixed. There were a total of 6 officers. It was not the one who fought with Gu Qingfeng, but another one. Because they found out that Gu Qingfeng knew martial arts, the Han family's mind sent a few powerful dragon shadow guards over. 3 of the 6 were dragon shadow guards. The middle-aged madam's surname was Su, and her name was Fengxian. She walked down the stairs in a flirtatious manner and said with a smile, "Oh, what wind has blown the officials here? Our heavenly fragrance pavilion is honored by your presence tonight." The leading officer took out a portrait and asked the middle-aged madam, "Have you seen this person before?" Su Fengxian glanced at the portrait and said with a smile, "Oh, such a handsome young man. It's a pity that I haven't seen him before." The leading officer said coldly, "You really haven't seen him before?" Su Fengxian said with a smile, "My heavenly fragrance pavilion can't find someone like him. If I had seen him before, I would definitely remember him." The leader of the officers ordered, "Search the place." Su Fengxian's face turned pale. "Hey, what are you doing? Don't you know that third young master Nangong is our heavenly fragrance pavilion's guest?" Humph. The leading officer snorted in disdain. How could someone from the Nangong family be compared to the Han family? The few of them went in and searched inside and out. Luckily, Heavenly Fragrance Pavilion's business was not good, and there were not many customers. Otherwise, they would have suffered a great loss tonight. Boss, we didn't find him. The officers returned to the lobby to report. The leading officer took out the portrait and said to Su Fengxian, "If you see this person in the future, remember to report to the Han family." "Do you have money?" Su Fengxian asked. The leading officer looked over with a cold gaze. Su Fengxian shrunk her neck and said in a low voice, "Yes, this servant will remember." The group turned and left. Su Fengxian watched them enter the gambling house next door, before going to the firewood room in the backyard. She moved the firewood away and opened the secret door on the ground. She said to the two people in the cellar, "They're gone." Gu Jiao carried Gu Chengfeng on his back. Su Fengxian actually had a chance to tell on him just now. The reason why she didn't was because Gu Jiao said to her, "If you betray me, I will escape and come back to kill you. You can bet on whether or not I can escape." When the young man said this, his bloodthirsty eyes didn't seem like a living person. Su Fengxian didn't dare to gamble with her life. Su Fengxian placed Gu Chengfeng in her room. This was definitely not because she wanted to take advantage of Gu Chengfeng. It was because her room had an escape route and was the safest room in Heavenly Fragrance Pavilion. Gu Jiao placed Gu Chengfeng on the bed and planned to go to the carriage to get a first aid kit to treat his injuries. Just as she turned around, a scalding hot hand grabbed her hand. There were some things that he wouldn't do normally and some words that he wouldn't say normally. But his fever was too high and his brain was mush. How could he distinguish between his face and dignity? He held her tightly and struggled to open his eyes. His vision was blurry as he looked at her and said in a hoarse and weak voice, "Did I find you?" Gu Jiao looked at him and nodded. "And I found you." The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more complete. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_896/107598493. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikaga mobile reading website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 667. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all available here. Gu Jiao used her own voice. He couldn't see now, but at least he could hear. Su Fengxian, who was pouring tea for Gu Jiao, heard the young girl's voice and was shocked. She looked at the youth in disbelief. "Prepare the hot water," Gu Jiao said, returning to her youthful voice. Su Fengxian wiped the cold sweat from her forehead. Was she scared silly? She could even mishear the voice. This was clearly a boy. How could he turn into a girl? A girl wasn't that scary. Gu Chengfeng's injuries were very serious. There were light abrasions from falling and knife wounds from fighting. The wounds were soaked in water and were full of sand. During the cleaning process, the flesh had to be turned over. Gu Jiao did everything calmly. Su Fengxian, who was watching from the side, almost jumped out of her throat. Oh my God, isn't this washing a little too cruel? She didn't even torture those disobedient boys. Where did this boy come from? Was this really saving someone? He was trying to kill him. Don't clean it. Gu Chengfeng said weakly. It's ugly. Gu Jiao said calmly. I've seen wounds that are even uglier than this. Besides the new wounds today, Gu Chengfeng also had many old wounds. They were big and small, almost all over his body. It wasn't hard to see that he had suffered along the way. The Han family did this? Gu Jiao asked. Her voice was still calm, without any fluctuations, but the room was inexplicably shrouded in an extremely cold murderous aura. Su Fengxian, who was carrying the hot water into the room, couldn't help but shiver. She had been in this line of work for many years and had seen all kinds of people, but this was the first time she had seen such a young boy with such a strong murderous aura. She put the hot water on the stool beside the bed and asked, "Does the young master have any other orders?" "Go make some vegetable porridge," Gu Jiao said. "Oh, okay." Su Fengxian agreed and quickly ordered Ginkgo to do it. After the huge stone in one's heart was lifted, one could relax and easily fell asleep. Gu Chengfeng was about to fall asleep when he suddenly felt someone pulling at his pants. He was dazed and subconsciously grabbed his belt. "What are you doing?" Gu Jiao looked at the blood on his pants and said, "You have an injury on your leg." Gu Chengfeng used his last bit of consciousness to resist. Don't look, Gu. I'm not laughing at you for being small." Gu Chengfeng. "I'm not small. I'm Gu. Savage Gu. And what's this girl? Was this something a girl should say?" Gu Qingfeng's head tilted and he lost consciousness. Su Fengxian. Did he fall asleep or did he faint from anger? Gu Jiao had checked him. Gu Qingfeng's thigh was cut near his crotch. The cut was so deep that the bone could be seen. It required 7 stitches. It was already an hour later when all the injuries were treated. The vegetable porridge in the kitchen was ready, but Gu Qingfeng had already fallen asleep. Gu Jiao did not wake him up and ate a little herself. She wasn't hungry. She just didn't like to waste food. After experiencing such a thrilling night, Su Fengxian felt that she should eat some porridge to calm herself down. "Well, if there's nothing else, I'll go back to my room," she said embarrassedly. Gu Jiao sat at the table and put down the bowl in her hand. "Wait, I have something to ask you." Su Fengxian quickly turned back and smiled flatteringly. "Hey, young master, please ask." Gu Jiao asked. "The officers today were from the Han family. Is it the same Han family as Han Che?" "Han Che?" Su Fengxian was stunned for a moment before she realized that the second young master of the Han family was indeed called Han Che. She nodded. "Yes, it's that Han family." Gu Jiao asked again. "Why would the Han family chase after a slave?" "There's something you don't know. He's not an ordinary slave." Su Fengxian realized the relationship between the two halfway through her sentence. She hurriedly coughed and changed her words. "Judging from the clothes of those officers, they should be from the Han family's mine. The mine has extremely strict control over corvée laborers. Those who escape will all be caught and executed. This is the rule of the mine. It's also the Han family's way of intimidating people. Young master's friend is lucky to have escaped. The Han family's mine is not a place for humans. Only prisoners on death row are sent there. Otherwise they're bought slaves. The people there are not human. They work from dawn to dusk. If they're sick or injured, no one will treat them. They'll just throw them into the mountains because the money for treatment is enough to buy a new slave." Gu Jiao's eyes were filled with murderous intent. Su Fengxian advised, "Young master, I advise you not to act rashly. The Han family is not to be trifled with." "How not to be trifled with?" Gu Jiao asked. Su Fengxian said, "The Han family is the crown prince's mother's family. They're very powerful. Although they're not ranked first among the aristocratic families, sometimes the ranking is fake. The military power in their hands is real. The Han family got the Black Wind cavalry from the Xianyuan family. They have the strongest cavalry in the Yan kingdom. Young master, you're still young and don't know how to fight. You don't know how strong the cavalry is. The Han family's Black Wind King is rumored to be a magical horse that only appears once in 1,000 years. It can command wolves and fight tigers. There's only one in the 6 countries. It's invincible." "Ah!" the maid Ginkgo screamed from the backyard. The horse was jumping on the water in the backyard. The water splashed on Ginkgo's face. Speaking of slaves, Gu Jiao's gaze fell on the brand on the outside of Gu Qingfeng's right leg. It was branded with a red-hot iron brand. His skin and flesh were burned and his pride was crushed. The brand was very eye-catching. It was more eye-catching than all the injuries on his body combined. Gu Jiao asked, "How long will it take for the officers to find him before they give up?" These words were so awkward that Su Fengxian almost did not understand. She said, "We won't give up. None of the people who escaped from the Han family's mine have not been found. Otherwise, why would no one dare to escape now? Your friend is probably the first to escape this year. You have to be careful when you take him away. Gu Jiao glanced at her. Who said I'm taking him away? Su Fengxian was stunned. What? Gu Jiao looked at Su Fengxian and said threateningly, You'll live as long as he can hide. Su Fengxian. No, was this guy blackmailing her? Was she going to have to help him deal with the Han family soldiers? Su Fengxian stuttered. I'm warning you. Gu Jiao said indifferently. The soft are afraid of the hard are afraid of the unreasonable, and the unreasonable are afraid of those who don't care about their lives. Guess which one I am? Su Fengxian's blood was stuck in her throat. Gu Qingfeng had a high fever for the entire night, and Gu Jiao stayed by his bed for the entire night. Before dawn, Gu Jiao took a carriage to Tianqiong Academy. At the entrance of the academy, she ran into Gu Shaoshun. Gu Shaoshun walked over with a bag of books. Sister, did you sleep in the young princess residence last night? No. This wasn't the place to talk. Gu Jiao looked around and said, I'll tell you later. Gu Shaoshun replied, Oh. Gu Jiao planned to put the Horse King in the academy first and bring it back at night. She had only taken a few steps when someone called out to her. Are you Xiao Lulang? My master wants to see you. I'm not going. Gu Jiao said without thinking. That person said word by word, My master's surname is Han. Gu Jiao stopped in her tracks and handed the carriage to Gu Shaoshun. You go in first. My bag of books is in the carriage. Don't forget to bring it to Ming Xian Hall later. Okay. Gu Shaoshun took the reins obediently. Lead the way. Gu Jiao turned around and said to the young guard. The guard led Gu Jiao to a nearby alley. Han Che had been waiting in the alley for a long time. There were many guards of the Han family standing beside him. It was obvious that they didn't come with good intentions. In fact, the matter was quite simple. It was just a horse. They thought that Prince Ming would definitely be able to snatch Xiao Liulang's horse away. Who would have thought that a young princess would appear out of nowhere? Since Commandery Prince Ming was humiliated, he could only vent his anger on him. He blamed him for not understanding the situation and bullying the young Commandery princess. Was this his fault? Wasn't it because Prince Ming couldn't defeat the young princess? Han Che didn't dare to say this. He was so angry that he couldn't sleep the entire night. He decided that no matter what, he had to get his hands on the horse. He couldn't bear this humiliation for nothing. Of course, he wasn't an unreasonable person. He would try peaceful means before resorting to force. Xiao Lulang, to tell you the truth, I want your horse. Name a price. Gu Jiao looked at him coldly. Why are you looking at me? It's your fortune that I want your horse. If not for this, do you think you have the right to talk to the Han family's legitimate son? Gu Jiao continued to look at him coldly. Han Che inexplicably felt that he was being stared at by a ferocious wolf. He felt a chill run down his spine and said angrily, Xiao Lulang, don't think that you have someone backing you up. The young princess is just a child. If Lord Yin Shan and the monarch find out that you used her, you will suffer a fate worse than death. If you sell the horse to me now and beg me, I might be able to let the Han family protect it on account of you kneeling down and licking my boots. Before he could finish his last word, Gu Jiao raised her leg and kicked him heavily onto the ground. The young man was like a demon. He stepped on Han Che's chest and said arrogantly, Do you think the Han family is so great? Digression. My monthly votes are for second brother and Jiao Jiao. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more complete. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found on the internet can be found here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/896442_8964286/10759475. HTML Genius memorized this website's address. www.zhhbqg.com Bikugo mobile reading website. zhhbqg.com Chapter 668. The newest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that can't be found online are all available here. Han Che brought a total of 6 guards from the Han family. Although they weren't as strong as the men of sacrifice, they were still top experts. However, from the moment Gu Jiao attacked until now, not a single one of them had reacted. They didn't know if it was because Gu Jiao's movements were too fast or because Gu Jiao's aura was too strong. Han Che's mouth let out a painful whimper. Only then did they regain their senses. They looked at each other, then gritted their teeth and charged at Gu Jiao. If it was 6 dragon shadow guards, Gu Jiao would hesitate. However, it was impossible for these guards to gain any advantage from Gu Jiao's hands. Gu Jiao used each of her hands as a hammer to smash them. In a few moves, they were smashed until they spat out blood. Han Che could only watch helplessly as the guards he had brought along fell to the ground. His pupils constricted. But thinking about it carefully, this result wasn't too surprising. He had been practicing martial arts since he was young. Although he wasn't one of the top young masters in the aristocratic families, he was definitely not bad. However, when Xiao Lulang attacked him, he couldn't resist at all. What the hell is going on? How could a scholar from a lower country have such strong martial arts skills? In all fairness, it was true that Gu Jiao could fight. However, it was more because Han Che and his guards lacked experience. Han Che was only a young master of an aristocratic family. He wouldn't go to places that were too dangerous. The guards his father gave him naturally weren't vicious people. If it was Han and his guards here, Gu Jiao wouldn't be able to deal with them so easily. Gu Jiao kicked Han Che again. Han Che was in so much pain that he almost fainted. He didn't understand. This brat was so young. How could he be so ruthless? Don't what? Gu Jiao hated people being noisy. Han Che was beaten to the point of doubting his life. He could feel from the bottom of his heart that Gu Jiao was not lying. She really did not put the Han family in her eyes. He really could not understand where a person from a lower country got the courage to go against an aristocratic family from a higher country. It was too late for others to kneel and lick his boots. In the clear heart hall of the Tianqiong Academy, Mu Qingchen had been waiting for a while. He always came late, and was always the last in class. He belonged to the category of students who came in late. Gu Jiao was the complete opposite. Except for not studying hard, she always gave the teacher face in other aspects. She was never late, never skipped classes for no reason, and never missed homework. She had always arrived earlier than Mu Qingchen, but she was nowhere to be seen today. Her school bag had been brought over by Gu Xiaoshan, and now it was sitting alone on her desk. Mu Qingchen frowned and looked at the back door. At this time, Teacher Jiang came over with the Analects of Confucius. "Today let's go." Before Mr. Jiang's voice had died away, a dashing little figure flashed in from the back door and sat beside Mu Qingchen. She took the book that Mu Qingchen had opened. Mr. Jiang looked over and saw that Mu Qingchen's desk was empty. Mr. Jiang frowned and asked, "Mu Qingchen, where's your book?" Mu Qingchen's mouth twitched. Gu Jiao pretended to return the book to him and said, "I'll lend it to you. Fortunately, I brought 2 books with me." Then, she took out a copy of the Analects of Confucius from her school bag without changing her expression. "Mu Qingchen." Mr. Jiang gave Mu Qingchen a warning look and started the class. Although Mu Qingchen had already experienced his deskmate's shamelessness, he did not expect her to be this shameless. He was at a loss for words. Everyone in the classroom read along. Mr. Jiang read one sentence, and everyone followed suit. After reading, Mr. Jiang began to explain one by one. Mu Qingchen suppressed the surging emotions in his heart, and asked Gu Jiao in a low voice, "What did you do?" Gu Jiao opened her book and said softly, "I met an acquaintance and greeted him in a friendly manner." Mu Qingchen frowned. Greetings were just greetings, but how could they be friendly? Why did it sound so strange when it came from Xiao Liulang's mouth? Did you cause any trouble? No. Something had provoked her. On the other hand, Han Che, who had been greeted by Gu Jiao, was escorted back to the Han residence by the servants. Han Che was covered with bruises all over his body, When he entered the residence, no one recognized him. The servants immediately called for a doctor and went to the main courtyard to report to Master Han. Master Han was receiving guests with his eldest son in the parlor. It was inconvenient for him to leave when the guests were present, so he asked his eldest son to come over first. Han Che was lying on his bed. The servant had just helped him change into a clean set of clothes. It was such a simple thing, but it was so painful that he almost died again. This was the scene that Crown Prince Han saw when he entered the room. His younger brother was lying on the bed in great pain, and all the servants in the room were helpless to do anything. Crown Prince. A servant saw him and hurriedly bowed. The rest of the servants followed suit. Crown Prince Han walked to the bedside without a smile. What happened? When Han Che saw his elder brother, he suddenly felt wronged. He reached out his bruised hand and grabbed his elder brother's sleeve. Elder brother, someone bullied me, Crown Prince Han said. Tell him properly. With snot and tears, Han Che told the story of how he was beaten up. I saw that Commandery Prince Ming was unhappy, so I wanted to persuade him not to go against Commandery Prince Ming, who knew that he would vent his anger on me. He even said that the Han family was so great. Elder brother. He didn't care about the Han family at all. A commoner wouldn't dare to do this. It must be Mu Qingchen's doing. The enmity between the Han family and the Mu family had been going on for a long time. After some thought, Han Che felt that Mu Qingchen was most likely behind all of this. Crown Prince Han looked at his younger brother seriously and said, "Don't blame everything on Mu Qingchen. He didn't have to go through so much trouble to deal with you." Han Che said angrily, "Did he deal with me? It's the Han family." He slapped the Han family's face. Crown Prince Han glanced at him and said, "I think you're quite strong. You didn't hit him hard." "How was it not hard? I was about to die. I was just angry." Han Che felt wronged. He was really about to be beaten to death. Xiao Lulang didn't seem like he didn't want to sell the horse. It was more like he had done something to offend Xiao Lulang. "He's taking it out on me." Han Che choked. Crown Prince Han put his hands behind his back and looked at Han Che. "I've told you to stay away from your bad friends and stop causing trouble outside. You always turn a deaf ear to my words. This will teach you a lesson. Let's see if you dare to mess around in the future." Han Che couldn't believe it. "Elder brother, what do you mean? Aren't you going to avenge me? Are you just going to watch your only twin brother be humiliated like this?" There were many sons in the Han family. There were only two of them, Crown Prince Han and Han Che. Both brothers had high hopes and were raised strictly since they were young. However, Crown Prince Han was more outstanding in all aspects and had a calmer and colder personality. Crown Prince Han heard his brother's words and his eyes turned cold. "You went out to bully a subordinate and got bullied instead. You still have the face to ask me to avenge you?" Han Che choked. Crown Prince Han continued coldly, "You couldn't even win against a subordinate. If I were you, I would find a hole to hide in." Han Che didn't dare to utter a word. It had been like this since he was young. Other people's elder brothers would stand up for their younger brothers. Only his elder brother would always ask him to fight back. If it weren't for the fact that the two of them looked so similar, he would have doubted if he was his own brother. Han Che lowered his head and clenched his fists. Crown Prince Han looked at him coldly, turned around, and walked out. "Crown Prince." After leaving the yard, Crown Prince Han's confidant walked over. Crown Prince Han asked, "Did you find out?" The confidant cupped his hands and said, "I've asked second young master's guards." It was indeed the student from Tianqiong Academy who started the fight. The reason was that the second young master had taken a fancy to a student's horse during the archery competition and wanted to take it for himself. However, he was worried that Mu Qingchen would protect the horse, and he would not be able to get it. Thus he mentioned it to Commandery Prince Ming. Commandery Prince Ming's horse was so good that he almost stole your Black Wind King. When Commandery Prince Ming heard that there was a horse as good as the Black Wind King, he was tempted and went to Tianqiong Academy to ask for the horse. However, the young princess suddenly appeared and ruined everything. She seemed to have reprimanded Commandery Prince Ming in public. Commandery Prince Ming felt humiliated, and then vented his anger on second young master. Today's second young master. I'm afraid that other than asking for the horse, he also went to get back at second young master. Crown Prince Han finished what the confidant didn't dare to say. He went to vent his anger on Commandery Prince Ming. Can you blame him for beating him? The confidant didn't dare to talk about Han Che. Crown Prince Han continued. However, that student was too arrogant. No matter what, Che is the legitimate son of the Han family. How could he humiliate the Han family like this? Moreover, he was too heavy-handed. Crown Prince Han frowned when he thought of the injuries on Han Che's body. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found on the internet can be found here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964226/10757969. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Pavilion's mobile reading website, zhbqg.com. Chapter 669. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all available here. After the heavy rain, the grass field would take a few days to dry. Gu Jiao and the young princess agreed to teach her in 3 days. After school, Gu Jiao asked Gu Xiaoshan to bring Horse King back first while she went to Heavenly Fragrance Pavilion. Heavenly Fragrance Pavilion used to be a brothel, but because the girls had either redeemed themselves or left, only a few middle-aged women remained. As a result, the business couldn't continue, so they changed it to an opera house. However, it wasn't easy to run an opera house. They couldn't find suitable actors, so they had to rely on a group of old musicians. Not many rich young masters were willing to spend money to support them. The main door had been repaired, but it was a pity that it was cold and cheerless inside. Su Fengxian sat in the main hall and sighed. If this continued, her Heavenly Fragrance Pavilion would have to close down. Madam, that young master is here. Ginkgo whispered in Su Fengxian's ear. Which young master? Does he have money? Su Fengxian asked casually. Ginkgo replied. The young master from yesterday, the one who tore down the door. Upon hearing the door being opened, Su Fengxian shuddered and sat up straight. She looked towards the door, and saw Gu Jiao striding in. Su Fengxian quickly stood up and looked at Gu Jiao with lingering fear. You're here to find that young brother, right? He's upstairs, he's awake. Gu Qingfeng was really good at taking beatings. After a day and a night of recuperation, he was able to wake up from his serious injuries. His fever had also subsided. When Gu Jiao entered the room, he was sitting on the bed, refusing to drink the medicine. The medicine was prescribed by Gu Jiao. The servants of Heavenly Fragrance Pavilion had fetched the medicine and decocted it for him. Chinese medicine treated the root of the problem and could also regulate the body's constitution. Gu Jiao had instructed them to watch him drink it. What, are you afraid of bitterness? Gu Jiao's voice came from the door at a moderate pace. Gu Qingfeng was slightly stunned. He grabbed the bowl and gulped down the medicine. The maidservant was dumbfounded. She had been trying to persuade him for a long time, but he didn't drink a single mouthful. That young master really had a way. Thinking about it, the little young master was so fierce. If he didn't drink the medicine obediently, the little young master might beat him up. Gu Qingfeng was not worried that Gu Jiao would beat him up. Gu Qingfeng was so bitter that he wanted to stick out his tongue, but he held it in. He leaned against the cushion behind him and said indifferently, "Why are you here? Don't you have class?" He had been to the Pushui Alley. Of course, he knew the identity of Gu Jiao when she came to the Yan Kingdom. School is over. Gu Jiao came to the bedside and opened the first aid kit. Change the bandage. I'll change it myself. Gu Qingfeng said without looking sideways. Gu Jiao glanced at him indifferently and put down the first aid kit unhurriedly. She pressed him against the head of the bed and changed the medicine inside and out. Unable to struggle at all, Gu Chengfeng. After changing the dressing, Gu Chengfeng turned into a young chick whose face was flushed red with anger. Gu Jiao started to tidy up the medical supplies on the table. She didn't ask why Gu Chengfeng came to the Yan Kingdom. Some things had to be done, but some things didn't have to be said. However, just because she didn't ask, it didn't mean that Gu Chengfeng thought that she wouldn't ask. As if to seize the opportunity, Gu Chengfeng sat on the bed and coughed lightly. He said seriously, "I'm not here for you. I'm here for my big brother. My big brother also came to the Yan Kingdom. I'm worried that he'll be in danger." Gu Jiao. Oh. Gu Chengfeng didn't remember what he said to Gu Jiao when he was confused by the fever. He even thought that he covered it up perfectly. "You're not my sister." Gu Jiao. Oh. Gu Chengfeng felt that he had punched cotton. However, as the #1 thief in Jiaodu, Fei Shuang had matured and practiced the ability to not be embarrassed by others. "How's Gu Yan?" He pretended to ask casually. Gu Jiao. "He's out of danger for now. If there's no accident, the operation will be scheduled next month." Gu Chengfeng frowned. "What do you mean by, if there's no accident?" Gu Jiao put the last used cotton swab into a porcelain bottle. "The operation room is in the State Preceptor Hall. The State Preceptor can only enter when he comes back. He's expected to come back next month." "I see." Gu Chengfeng nodded. Then Gu Chengfeng asked about Xiao Heng, Little Jinkong, and the others. Gu Jiao answered them one by one. Some people said that they didn't care, but they didn't let go of any details. "This is for you." Gu Chengfeng suddenly took out an oiled paper bag sealed with wax and handed it to Gu Jiao. "What is it?" Gu Jiao took it. "Princess Xinyang asked me to bring it to you," Gu Chengfeng said. Gu Jiao opened it and saw that it was a brand new safety charm. "Why did you give me another one?" she asked, puzzled. Gu Chengfeng snorted. "It's made of medicine. If you wear it for too long, the medicine will lose its effect. You have to change it regularly." Gu Jiao touched the safety charm around her neck. "I don't feel it," Gu Chengfeng said. "Wouldn't it be too late to change it when you feel it lose its effect?" "That's true." Gu Jiao put on the new safety charm. She didn't feel anything when she didn't compare it, but after wearing it, she felt a cool feeling in her heart. It seemed that the old safety charm really needed to be changed. Speaking of which, Gu Chengfeng opened his mouth, but didn't know where to start. If Princess Xinyang hadn't told him about it, he wouldn't have known that this girl had such a secret. He finally understood why his elder brother wanted to sneak into the Yan Kingdom. At that time, Gu Yan hadn't had a relapse. His elder brother didn't seek treatment for Gu Yan, but for her. His elder brother wanted to cure her, so that she wouldn't lose control. But usually he couldn't tell. Maybe it was because he hadn't seen it before, so it was hard to imagine. "By the way, my elder brother also came to the Yan Kingdom. Have you seen him?" "No." Gu Jiao shook her head. Gu Chengfeng said thoughtfully, "My elder brother came with the people from the underground martial arts arena. I don't know where they took him. My elder brother didn't know that you and Gu Yan were here. If he knew, he would definitely try to contact you." Gu Jiao thought for a while and said, "He might not have come to Chengdu." Gu Chengfeng agreed. "That's true. His elder brother came to the Yan Kingdom to treat this girl's illness. The Yan Kingdom was so big, and there were many capable people, but the most powerful one was the State Preceptor Hall. His elder brother would definitely come to the State Preceptor Hall. However, a master selected from the underground martial arts arena of a lower country might not be qualified to enter Chengdu. His elder brother had to fight his way up and defeat all the masters in front of him before he could enter the martial arts arena of Chengdu. This was his guess. If there was a martial arts arena in Chengdu, Tianxiang Pavilion was indeed a relatively safe place. Gu Chengfeng continued to rest. Gu Jiao came out of the Tianxiang Pavilion. After walking a few steps, she felt that someone was watching her. This was a kind of intuition that had been trained for a long time. The other party didn't reveal anything. She walked into a clothing store without saying a word. The shop's business was very good. The lady boss and the shop assistants were very busy. Gu Jiao took a set of ready-made women's clothes, put a piece of silver on the counter, and took off a veiled bamboo hat. Gu Jiao came out of the shop and had become a slender and elegant girl wearing a veil. The line of sight was still there, but it wasn't staring at her. She expressionlessly walked towards the two people who were staring at her, and seemingly inadvertently bumped into one of them on the shoulder. That person was furious. Seeing that it was a pretty little girl, his face turned red, and he cupped his hands and said, "Miss, I'm sorry." "It's okay." Gu Jiao curved her lips and said gently, "Can you let me pass?" The girl's voice was cold and clean, with the tenderness that belonged to her age. Hearing it, the two men's faces turned red. The two hurriedly moved to the side. Actually, the road was very wide, but who would refuse such a polite request from a girl? After Gu Jiao walked away, the two experts continued to stare at the shop for a long time. "Why hasn't he come out yet?" The expert who had been bumped into muttered. His companion was also puzzled. "Did he leave?" The expert said, "That's impossible. This shop doesn't have a back door. We even watched the windows. I didn't see him come out." His companion asked, "Could it be that he changed his clothes?" The expert said, "A total of 13 people went in just now, and 5 came out. One was a pregnant woman, 2 were children, 1 was a gray-haired old woman, and 1 was the little girl just now. Which one do you think is him in disguise?" The pregnant woman, the child, and the old woman were all a family. The characteristics were too obvious, and it was impossible to disguise them. As for the little girl, her voice was so pleasant. Their heir had asked them to watch a boy. His companion frowned. "Forget it, let's go in and look." The two of them entered the clothing store and searched every corner, but there was no sign of that kid. His companion was dumbfounded. Did he grow wings and fly away? The expert suddenly touched his waist. "Aya, my pouch." On the quiet street, Gu Jiao turned right into a quiet alley. As she walked, she took off her veil and outer garment. She weighed the pouch in her hand and opened it. Then, she took out a token with her fair fingers. "Han family." She faintly curved her lips, walked out of the alley, and threw the token into the pond by the side of the road. She poured out the gold ingots and silver fragments inside, and then threw the pouch away. Digression. Regarding the update, in the past she didn't separate because she would stay up until 3 or 4 in the morning to write. Sometimes she would stay up all night. Now that she didn't want to stay up all night, she would write the second update during the day. In the future, she would update as much as she could at night, and try not to update during the day. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964286/1075755613. HTML Genius remembered this site's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikugo mobile reading website, zhbqg.com. Chapter 670. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that cannot be found on the internet are available here. On the martial arts field in the back mountain of the Han family, Crown Prince Han swung his red tasseled spear downwards, forcing his opponent to take a few steps back. After the opponent steadied himself, he saluted Crown Prince Han. "Crown Prince, I've lost." Crown Prince Han was sweating profusely and panting slightly. He threw the red tasseled spear in his hand to the guard beside him and said, "Leave, remember to heal your injuries." Yes. The man of sacrifice who had fought with Crown Prince Han left the martial arts field with the help of 2 guards. A servant came forward with a clean towel. Crown Prince Han took the towel and wiped the sweat off his face. He turned to the middle-aged man who had been watching the battle and said, "Second uncle, how was it?" The man who was called second uncle by Crown Prince Han was the second master of the Han family, Han Yong. Han Yong walked over with his hands behind his back. You've improved compared to last month. Crown Prince Han quickly calmed his breathing. He was obviously not very satisfied with this result, and continued to ask, how is it compared to Xianyuan Cheng? Xianyuan Cheng, the eldest son of the Xianyuan family, was a martial arts prodigy famous in the Six Nations. He had received the teachings of Xianyuan Li, and was known as the only person who could catch up to the Xianyuan war god. Han Yong had once been under Xianyuan Cheng's command. Han Yong pondered for a moment and said, "You're still young. If you practice martial arts diligently, you may be able to reach Xianyuan Cheng's level. So I still can't surpass him." Crown Prince Han stretched out his hand to the guard holding the red tasseled spear. The guard understood and passed the spear to him with both hands. Crown Prince Han practiced another round of spear techniques. Every move was full of murderous intent. After practicing, he was not satisfied. He frowned and said, "It's still not as good as Xianyuan Li's divine weapon." Han Yong smiled and said, "You don't have to worry. Xianyuan Cheng may not be as powerful as you when he was your age. He went to the battlefield early and killed his way through piles of corpses. What you lack is just some opportunities to gain experience." Crown Prince Han threw the red tasseled spear to his guard again. The red tasseled spear was too heavy. The guard staggered a few steps and almost couldn't catch it. Han said, "Are there any new masters in Chengdu recently?" Han Yong said, "Are you talking about the underground martial arts field?" "Not yet, but when I do, I'll inform you so that you can compete. Actually, the Han family's men of sacrifice aren't bad either. It's just that their methods are different, and they aren't the most suitable opponents." Regardless of the martial arts level of the men of sacrifice, they were not the most suitable sparring partners. Fighting with them only stimulated the instinct to kill, not the progress of martial arts. Han Yong continued, "It's already hard to find a worthy opponent in Chengdu. Don't put too much pressure on yourself." "Ah, right, I almost forgot to tell you something." Crown Prince Han said, "Second uncle, please speak." Han Yong said, "The emperor's birthday is coming. The imperial concubine has sent a message from the palace, asking you two brothers to enter the palace for the banquet." Crown Prince Han paused and said, "With Chair's injuries, I'm afraid he won't be able to go." Han Yong smiled. "You can go too." Crown Prince Han did not say whether he would go or not. Instead he asked, "Isn't the monarch's birthday approaching? Why is there a birthday banquet all of a sudden?" The emperor and the crown princess had the same birthday. Ever since the crown princess colluded with the Xianyuan family to rebel, the emperor's birthday banquet had never been organized. Han Yong smiled and shook his head. "Who knows? Our emperor is temperamental, and his mind is strange. No one can guess what he's thinking." Crown Prince. While they were talking, the two masters who were sent to spy on them returned. They were Crown Prince Han's personal bodyguards. One was called Sun Feng, and the other was called Zheng Hai. The one who stole the purse was Sun Feng. The two of them bowed to Crown Prince Han. Crown Prince Han looked at the two of them who were covered in dirt and asked lightly, "Why are you back so early? Where's the person I asked you to follow?" The two of them looked at each other. Sun Feng braced himself and said, We lost him." "Lost him?" Crown Prince Han was slightly surprised. "How can the two of you lose him?" The two of them blushed with shame. They were Crown Prince Han's trusted bodyguards. Their abilities were not small. They had helped Crown Prince Han many times and rarely failed. Today they were careless. Sun Feng's purse was also stolen, Zheng Hai said. Sun Feng glared at Zheng Hai. "Didn't I tell you not to mention this? The dignified bodyguards of the Han family actually let a thief steal his purse? Wouldn't it be embarrassing if word got out?" Sun Feng already understood that the purse was stolen by the little girl. But even so, he and Zheng Hai did not associate her with the boy they were supposed to follow. After all, one was a woman and the other was a man. Crown Prince Han looked at the two of them coldly. "Go and receive your punishment." "Yes." The two of them bowed and left. Han Yong asked, "Who is so powerful that he actually threw off your men?" Crown Prince Han said lightly, "A student from a lower country." He has some skills and even defeated Che. I want to see if there's anyone behind him. Oh. So Che was injured by a person from a lower country. Han Yong was angry and amused. Bullying the Han family's legitimate son. Isn't this provoking the Almighty? There are not many people in Chengdu who have the guts to do this. It's either the Mu family or the Nangong family. The Mu family had old grievances, and the Nangong family was fighting for military power. Crown Prince Han looked at the flowers in the garden and said, "He is indeed Mu Qingchen's classmate, but Mu Qingchen would not do this. Mu Qingchen will only come for me and not Che." Han Yong touched his chin and said thoughtfully, "Then only the Nangong family is left." Crown Prince Han frowned slightly. "The Nangong family?" Han Yong nodded and said bluntly, "Yes, the Nangong family has always wanted our Black Wind cavalry, and we have always coveted their military power. It's only a matter of time before we face them." Crown Prince Han pondered for a moment and said, "Why do I feel that it's not the Nangong family?" Han Yong said, "Other than the Nangong family, who else would come to deal with the Han family? The Wang family? The Wang family has no intention of doing this." As he said this, he saw that his nephew was still deep in thought. He smiled faintly and said, "Do you think he has the guts to provoke the Han family? Not to mention that he is just a country person. Even a young master of a Shangguan family can't compete with the entire Han family by himself. As long as he is not crazy, he will not do this. Moreover, don't you think it's strange that a few students suddenly came from the Zhao Kingdom? There have never been any students from the Zhao Kingdom in the Yan Kingdom." Crown Prince Han frowned. "Do you mean that they were sent by the Nangong family?" Han Yong said again. "Do you remember that one of General Nangong's arms was cut off by bandits?" Crown Prince Han said, "Yes." Han Yong sneered. General Nangong did not return to his hometown to worship his ancestors. He secretly went to the Zhao Kingdom. His arm was not injured by bandits. I don't know what happened exactly. However, not long after he returned to Chengdu, these people from the Zhao Kingdom came. Do you think it's a coincidence? After Gu Jiao returned to the house, she told her family about Gu Qingfeng's visit to Chengdu. Everyone in the family was surprised. "He doesn't have a travel permit. How did he come?" Madame Nan asked. "Could it be?" Gu Jiao nodded. "He was marked as a slave." Madame Nan sucked in a breath of cold air. The servant of the Gu family was too cruel. In order to come to Chengdu, he did not hesitate to mark him as a slave. This mark would stay with him for a lifetime. "Is he okay?" Madame Nan asked. Gu Jiao said, "He found a suitable hiding place. He is fine for now." This child. Madame Nan did not know what to say. The children of the Gu family were really stubborn. Once they decided on something, they would do it at all costs. For example, Gu Jiao wanted to cure Gu Changqing. For example, Gu Jiao wanted to cure Gu Yan. Now there was Gu Chengfeng. However, this was not a bad thing for Gu Jiao and Gu Yan. The two of them had no relatives in Chengdu. It was always good to have more helpers. 2 days later, Gu Jiao went to Yan Shanjuan's residence. The young commandery princess still got on the horse fearfully. Gu Jiao did not hesitate to grab her onto the horse. She finished the riding lesson while crying. In the next few days, you don't have to, The young commandery princess cried until she hiccuped. She stopped crying after getting off the horse, but the hiccups did not stop. "Tell me slowly," Gu Jiao said. "I am slowly, The young commandery princess hiccuped again. She felt that it was better to keep it short. "I can't go to class. Uncle Jun is going to, birthday. My father is not here. I am going to, go to the banquet for him. In fact, there was still some time before Uncle His Majesty's birthday banquet, but she had to move into the palace in advance, so she could not go to class for the time being. This was exactly what Gu Jiao wanted. Because Gu Jiao was about to prepare for the next boxing competition, there was a high probability that she would not have time to teach her. Then when the young commandery prince is not busy, we will learn how to ride a horse. Tudo. The young commandery princess immediately covered her mouth. She was famous for being eloquent, but she was still too young. There were some words that she could not pronounce very well. Gu Jiao curved her lips and stretched out her finger. She did not mention her pronunciation. The young commandery princess also stretched out her small finger and hooked it with Gu Jiao's. The night before the boxing competition, Wu Fuzi, as usual, took Gu Jiao and the others to the same inn as last time. When Mu Chuan entered the inn, he couldn't help but grumble. Didn't we win last time? Why are we still staying in such a shabby inn? Wasn't this because of the lack of funds? To be honest, the academy did allocate a little more money, but this year's boxing competition was particularly popular, causing the price of the inn to rise again and again. Wu Fuzi patted his chest and said, I promise you, as long as you win this round, I will pay for a better inn out of my own pocket for the finals. Mu Chuan pursed his lips, obviously not believing him. Wu Fuzi looked at the other students, who also had a look of doubt. Wu Fuzi tried to salvage the situation. What's wrong with this inn? There's a lantern festival tonight. It's nearby. I specially picked this inn. I'll allow you to go and look at the lanterns tonight. Come back before 9 p.m. This was the biggest concession Wu Fuzi could make. Mu Chuan suddenly became interested. He moved closer to Gu Jiao and went upstairs with Gu Jiao. Hey Lulang, you haven't been to the Lantern Festival in Xingdu yet, right? Yes. Gu Jiao stepped upstairs. Mu Chuan smiled and said, Let's go and have a look later? Okay. Gu Jiao agreed. Mu Chuan turned around and looked at Mu Qingchen behind him. Fourth brother, are you going? Forget it, you definitely won't go. His fourth brother was not interested in the lanterns. They went up to the second floor. Mu Qingchen pushed open the door of his room and looked in Gu Jiao's direction. See you at the door. Mu Chuan was stunned. Fourth brother was going to go? He had lived for a long time. But there was a day when his fourth brother would go to the Lantern Festival? Zhao Wei and Yuan Shao also had nothing to do, so they gathered at the door. Wu Fuzi was also there. Mu Chuan's smile froze. Wu Fuzi, what are you doing here? Wu Fuzi said seriously. I thought about it and decided to go with you guys. Otherwise I'll be worried. Mu Chuan was speechless. Wu Fuzi did not lie about the lanterns. They were indeed near the inn. They just had to walk 100 steps and turn a corner. The entire street was filled with colorful lanterns. On both sides of the street were stalls with colorful lanterns hanging on them. The peddlers were selling the lanterns while yelling with all their might. Pedestrians had already rushed over, and the crowd was moving shoulder to shoulder. However, the street was busy but not chaotic. It was noisy but not noisy. There were many pedestrians but not crowded. It was orderly. Not all of the lanterns here were bought with silver. There were also lanterns that were given for guessing riddles or reciting poems. Gu Jiao liked crowds. She felt a sense of novelty, just like a child seeing a new toy, even though she was a very quiet person by nature. Young master, buy a lantern. On the side, an old woman said kindly to Gu Jiao, who was passing by. Gu Jiao stopped and looked at the lantern the old woman handed to her. She blinked curiously. It was beautiful. The old woman saw that she liked it, so she picked up another one. This is a new lotus lantern made by my wife. Buy it together. It's 10 copper coins cheaper. The lotus lantern was beautiful too. Gu Jiao looked at it. Oh, there was also the peach blossom lantern. The peach blossom lantern was beautiful too. Mu Qingchen looked at her strangely. You're not going to buy a lantern, are you? Why would a man buy a lantern? It was enough to walk around. Even if he bought one, it would be a gift from a scholar. How could a man not let go? Sigh. Gu Jiao sighed and touched the peach blossom lantern in front of her. She could not ruin her image. She could not buy a lantern, especially a pink one. She reluctantly put the lantern back. Suddenly, a slender, jade-like hand reached over. The jade-like fingertips picked up a silver coin and placed it on the stall. Then a clean and low voice slowly sounded beside Gu Jiao. I want this peach blossom lantern. Gu Jiao turned her head. The other party was wearing a silver mask that covered half of his face. Only his soft lips and delicate chin were exposed, as well as his deep eyes. The night wind blew gently from his side. The familiar aura on his body faintly enveloped Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao was stunned. Mu Qingchen saw Gu Jiao's reaction and frowned unconsciously. He looked at the young man who suddenly appeared and was about to ask Gu Jiao to leave. At this moment, the old man who was selling the lanterns was hanging up the newly made lanterns. However, he lost his balance and fell onto the stall. The lantern in his hand flew out. Seeing that the lantern was about to hit Gu Jiao, Mu Qingchen hurriedly reached out to block it. Almost at the same time he made his move, the young man also raised his hand to block the lantern. The difference was that his other hand pulled Gu Jiao into his embrace to protect her. However, Gu Jiao did not resist and just threw herself into his arms. Was it an illusion or something else? Her little head even rubbed against the other party's chest. "Are you okay?" Mu Qingchen heard the other party ask softly. "I'm fine." He heard Gu Jiao answer softly. It was not her usual cold and unruly tone. Instead, it was a feeling that he could not describe. In just a moment, the two of them separated. "Thank you for your help, young master," Gu Jiao said politely. Xiaoheng picked up the peach blossom lantern in his hand and said gently, "It's nothing. I feel like old friends with you at first sight. This lantern is for you." "It's my pleasure." Gu Jiao took the lantern. "I'll give you one too." Xiaoheng nodded with a smile. "Okay." Gu Jiao bought a pink lotus flower lantern. This was also her favorite. Here, Mu Qingchen would not accept the lantern that only women like, and he felt that the other party would not either. However, Xiaoheng accepted it without hesitation and thanked him sincerely. "Thank you for the lantern. Since we feel like old friends at first sight, and even exchanged gifts, why don't we go together?" Mu Qingchen no. "Okay," Gu Jiao said straightforwardly. There were jugglers in front of them, and Mu Chuan and the others had already run over to watch the fun. Mu Qingchen and the other two walked on the long street unhurriedly. Gu Jiao and Xiaoheng each carried a lantern, and they looked very compatible. But they are obviously men, Mu Qingchen thought. "Where's Jing Kong?" Gu Jiao asked Xiaoheng with her eyes. Xiaoheng whispered. "He was called by the teacher to make up lessons." Mu Qingchen asked, "Are you from Chengdu?" Xiaoheng was very talented in languages, and his accent was even better than the locals. "Yes," Xiaoheng said. Mu Qingchen asked again, "May I know your name?" Xiaoheng said, "Long Yi." Mu Qingchen, "What's this name?" Xiaoheng ignored Mu Qingchen's strange behavior and turned to Gu Jiao. "Are you hungry? The dumplings over there are very good." "Yes," Gu Jiao said. The three of them went to the stall selling bean curd and found an empty table to sit down. Mu Qingchen and Xiaoheng faced each other. "I'm not hungry. You guys eat," Mu Qingchen said. The son of the first wife of the Mu family couldn't eat roadside stalls. Gu Jiao and Xiaoheng each ordered a bowl of cabbage and meat dumplings. Then something strange happened again. Gu Jiao and Xiaoheng reached for the seasonings on the table at the same time. Gu Jiao took vinegar and Xiaoheng took spicy oil. Gu Jiao put the vinegar in front of Xiaoheng, and Xiaoheng put the spicy oil in front of Gu Jiao. Mu Qingchen. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated faster. Millions of novels will be read for free. Novels with content that can't be found on the internet can be found here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/8964/2_89642_1075597939. HTML Genius memorized the address of this website. www.zhhbqg.com Bkuj mobile reading website. zhhbqg.com Chapter 671. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated more quickly. Millions of novels will be read for free. There are all kinds of novels that can't be found online. What are you two doing? One gives each other vinegar, the other gives each other chili oil. Isn't it enough that they gave each other lanterns? Mu Qingchen felt that this scene was very annoying. At the same time, he felt a little full. He hadn't eaten dinner. He can't eat spicy food. Mu Qingchen took the chili oil from Gu Jiao. Xiaoheng narrowed his eyes and looked at Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao was about to say something when Mu Qingchen glanced at her. Do you want your hemorrhoids to act up again? Gu Jiao was speechless. Can't you get over this? Yes, just a spoonful. Gu Jiao quickly poured half of it into the bowl. Mu Qingchen couldn't stop her in time. The dumplings tasted really good, especially after the chili oil was poured on them. Gu Jiao ate with satisfaction. Both of them were eating, and only Mu Qingchen sat there. Mu Qingchen didn't want to stare at them, but his eyes couldn't help but fall on them. Gu Jiao was stuttering as she ate. Her cheeks were puffed up, and she looked inexplicably cute. Mu Qingchen frowned. Why would he think that a man was cute? He must be crazy. He again looked at that uninvited guest, Long Yi. The way Long Yi ate, however, didn't need to be described as cute. He was refined and elegant, and his every movement revealed a noble aura. Mu Qingchen didn't believe that this was not an etiquette that was cultivated since childhood. However, no matter how hard Mu Qingchen racked his brains, he couldn't associate the man in front of him with any aristocratic family in Chengdu. Was he not from Chengdu? No, his accent was from Chengdu, and he admitted it himself. While Mu Qingchen was puzzled, Mu Chuan and the other two came over. Fourth brother. Lulang. Gu Jiao didn't look up when she heard Lulang. Instead, Xiaoheng glanced at Mu Chuan. Mu Qingchen frowned. I didn't call you. Lulang. Why are you ignoring me when I'm calling you? Mu Chuan came to the table and said bitterly. Gu Jiao sucked on a dumpling and said without changing her expression, I'm busy. He would never admit that he didn't react in time. Are you full? Xiaoheng asked Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao said, you can eat a little more. Chengdu was good at everything, but the portions of the dishes were always exquisite. Xiaoheng chuckled softly and said, leave some for those who suffer. Okay. Gu Jiao readily agreed. Mu Qingchen's frown deepened. He had known Gu Jiao for so long, but he had never seen Gu Jiao so easygoing. Mu Chuan looked at Xiaoheng strangely and asked, Lulang, who is this? Gu Jiao introduced. He's a friend I just met. His name is Long Yi. So you're Lulang. Xiaoheng covered up the loophole that they didn't finish introducing each other. Gu Jiao said in all seriousness, yes, my surname is Xiao, and my name is Lulang. They're my classmates. I'm Mu Chuan. Yuan Xiao. Zhao Wei. The three of them introduced themselves one by one. Mu Qingchen didn't show any intention of getting acquainted with Long Yi from beginning to end, so he didn't introduce himself. However, just because he didn't say anything didn't mean that Mu Chuan wouldn't say anything. Mu Chuan smiled and said, the three of us are Liulong's classmates. My fourth brother is also Liulong's roommate. Xiaoheng's face sank as soon as he said that. Gu Jiao, who was drinking dumpling soup, inexplicably felt a chill down her spine. What was with the illusion that the backyard was on fire again? Gu Jiao quickly put down the bowl and said, I've never lived in a dormitory before. Xiaoheng's expression relaxed. Mu Qingchen looked at Gu Jiao suspiciously. Gu Jiao coughed softly and stood up. Okay, I'm full. Let's go. Oh right, where's Wu Fuzi? She had the ability to change the topic. Mu Chuan said. He went to watch the juggling show. We secretly came here. What was the point of going to the lantern show with Wu Fuzi? Of course, they had to sneak away. There's a poetry gathering over there. Let's go take a look. Zhao Wei suggested. They were students of the Institute of Literature, so they were quite interested in poetry gatherings. Gu Jiao just wanted to put out the fire in the backyard as soon as possible, so she naturally wouldn't disagree. The group gladly went. Xiaoheng walked on Gu Jiao's left, and Mu Qingchen walked on Gu Jiao's right. Her left and right were occupied, so Mu Chuan and the other two could only follow behind them. Zhao Wei suddenly whispered, Hey, don't you think the three of them are a little strange? What's strange? Mu Chuan asked. Yeah, what's strange? Yuan Xiao also asked. Zhao Wei looked at the backs of the three men and frowned. I don't know. It's just the three of them. It's quite crowded. Yuan Xiao looked at the three of them and said, The three of us are quite crowded too. The street is only so wide, and there are so many people. It'll be strange if it's not crowded, right? Zhao Wei said. It's different between us and them. Yuan Shao asked stupidly, how is it different? Zhao Wei scratched his head. It's. Sigh, why would I ask you if I could tell? Forget it. Zhao Wei sighed. Zhao Wei was more meticulous, but he couldn't compare to Mu Chuan and Yuan Zhao's carelessness. Compared to observing whether the three men were crowded or not, the two of them were more interested in the lanterns on the street. The folkways of the Yan Kingdom were relatively open among the 6 countries. There was no lack of women on the street who strolled around with lanterns. The men rarely carried lanterns because it always felt a little out of place. Xiao Heng and Gu Jiao were exceptions. The way the two of them carried lanterns together was as beautiful as a painting. The group arrived at the poetry gathering. This was probably the largest poetry gathering on the street. It was hosted by a restaurant. Not only were there poems, but there were also lantern riddles, couplets, and 8-legged essays. The lantern riddles were the simplest, and the lanterns rewarded were also the most ordinary. The lantern for the first place was a gourd made of gold leaf. The gourd had to be made of real gold thread. It was expensive and exquisite. This lantern was not for sale. Only the most outstanding 8-legged essay was qualified to take it away. Gu Jiao looked at the gourd lantern, and her eyes lit up. It was golden and shiny. Jing Kong would definitely like it. Do you want it? Xiao Heng whispered in her ear. His warm breath made her earlobe slightly itchy. She pulled her little ear and nodded her head. Xiao Heng walked over. The lobby of the first floor was full of scholars who were writing 8-legged essays. Xiao Heng found a table in the corner and sat down. Why did Long Yi go in? Mu Chuan asked. Guessing lantern riddles, composing poems, and couplets could be done outside. In any case, Mu Chuan only wanted to guess a few lantern riddles. Soon Mu Qingchen also walked in. 4th brother? Mu Chuan was dumbfounded. He looked at that golden gourd lantern hanging at the entrance and thought, is this lantern so beautiful? 4th brother also wants it? Mu Qingchen didn't sit together with Xiao Heng. He specially chose a table that was 3 or 4 seats away from Xiao Heng. The two of them calmly started writing. Not long after, they attracted the attention of everyone. A scholar who was writing 8-legged essay at a table beside the window patted his companion at the front table and asked, Look, isn't that person young Master Qingchen? As soon as he said that, not only did his 2 companions at the front table stop writing, but the rest of the people also looked in the direction he was pointing. Another person recognized Mu Qingchen and whispered, It really seems to be him. No way, right? Why is young Master Qingchen also here? Is he the one who sent lanterns? Is he here to cause trouble? Yeah, he's the head of the 4 great young masters. If he's here to write 8-legged essays, what can we do? At least half of the people who were still writing at a high speed put down their pens. Just the title of young Master Qingchen was enough to extinguish their fighting spirit. Okay? Gu Jiao and the others guessed many lantern riddles while waiting outside. They won a lot of lanterns and gave them to the girls who passed by. The news of Mu Qingchen's presence gradually spread, and more people came to watch. Finally, after a gong sounded, the restaurant's manager walked out with a smile and personally took down the golden gourd lantern. Someone won first place. Who is it? Who is it? I don't know. It must be young Master Qingchen. The manager glanced around the crowd and walked toward Gu Jiao with the lantern. He said politely, Are you Xiao Lulang, young Master Xiao? I am, Gu Jiao said. The manager handed the lantern to Xiao Lulang with both hands. Congratulations on winning the lantern, young Master Xiao. Someone in the crowd said unhappily, He didn't go in to write essays. The manager looked at Gu Jiao with a smile. The essay written by young Master Zhao's friend was praised by Grand Secretary Yang. He deserves to be the winner tonight. Young Master Zhao's friend asked me to give this lantern to young Master Xiao. Young Master Xiao, please accept it. Gu Jiao took the lantern. Only then did the crowd realize that the manager had just mentioned Grand Secretary Yang. Oh my God! Grand Secretary Yang is here. If I knew Grand Secretary Yang was here, I would have gone in to write essays too. If I could get some advice from him, my life would be worth it. Grand Secretary Yang was a leading figure in the literary circle of the Yan Kingdom. Everyone who came to Chengdu to study was eager to be his student. Unfortunately, Grand Secretary Yang rarely accepted students in private. Soon, Xiao Heng and Mu Qingchen came out. The two of them walked toward Gu Jiao. Seeing that Gu Jiao and Mu Qingchen knew each other, and that they were both wearing the uniform of the Tianqiong Academy, the crowd was surprised. A scholar said, "I told you it was young Master Qingchen. Only his works are worthy of Grand Secretary Yang's attention." In the wing room on the second floor, Grand Secretary Yang was sitting on a cushion. On the desk in front of him were several pieces of 8-part essay that had just been collected from the hall. Opposite Grand Secretary Yang sat an elegant middle-aged man. "Grand Secretary, you have read it several times," the middle-aged man said with a smile. "Is it really so amazing?" Elder Yang stroked his beard and said, "Ever since Prince Jing, I haven't seen such a brilliant literary talent. Now it's Duke Crown Prince Jing was the title many years ago." The middle-aged man said with a smile, "Isn't it too high to be mentioned in the same breath as Dukin? Who is it?" Grand Secretary Yang looked at the name under the essay, and said with a strange expression, "Long Yi." Gu Jiao and the others walked on the busy street. Now she had 2 lanterns, a pink peach blossom lantern and a golden gourd lantern, which attracted many people's attention. "Lulang, your lantern is so beautiful." Yuan Shao pointed at the gourd lantern in Gu Jiao's right hand and said, "Of course it was a gift from her husband." Mu Qingchen looked at Xiao Heng suspiciously. "Who is this person?" "Dried meat. Fresh and delicious dried meat." A hawker's shout came from not far away. Xiao Heng said to Gu Jiao, "You go first. I'll buy some dried meat." After he left, Mu Qingchen blurted out, "Do you like dried meat?" It was a strange question. Even Mu Qingchen was surprised. Why did he subconsciously think that Long Yi did everything for Xiao Lulang? Gu Jiao inexplicably felt that she had to answer this question carefully. At this moment, Mu Chuan found a new lantern riddle guessing stall. He waved at them. "Fourth brother Lulang, come here." "Lulang, let's go and have a look," Yuan Shao urged. Gu Jiao was successfully taken away by the two. Mu Qingchen asked Long Yi. The place selling dried meat was not far away. It was in front of a ready-made clothing store diagonally across the street. The business was good. There were many people waiting in line. Xiao Heng stood at the end of the line. Xiao Heng waited patiently. He was not used to wearing a mask. He pushed it with his hand, but the mask accidentally fell off. He bent down and picked up the mask on the ground with his slender fingers. He gently patted the dust off the mask. At the same time, a woman walked out of the ready-made clothing store with an embroidered basket. The woman's clothes were not too luxurious, but her bearing and temperament were not comparable to ordinary women. She walked past the stall selling meat, and got into a carriage on the side of the road. Perhaps the fragrance of the dried meat was too alluring. The woman could not help but look at the stall. With just one glance she froze. The carriage started to move. The woman lost her balance and fell backward. The curtain in her hand fell with a bang. "Stop the carriage! Stop the carriage!" she shouted. The coachman stopped the carriage. The little girl in the carriage asked, "Aunt, what's wrong? Did you leave something in the store? Should I go and get it?" The woman did not answer her. Instead, she lifted her skirt and hurriedly got out of the carriage. She came to the stall selling dried meat, and pushed away the men in the line one by one. "What are you doing? Are you crazy?" Everyone cursed. The woman muttered in a daze, "Where is he? Where is he?" The little girl came over and asked, "Aunt, who are you looking for?" The woman said with disappointment, "His Highness Zhongsun. I saw His Highness Zhongsun." The little girl looked around and said in a low voice, "Aunt, are you seeing things? His Highness Zhongsun is no longer in Chengdu. He went with the crown princess to guard the imperial mausoleum." The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are novels with connotations that can't be found on the internet here. https://www.zhhbqg com/89642_896422826/107540975. HTML Genius memorized this site's address. www.zhhbqg.com Biku Pavilion Mobile Reading Website. zhhbqg.com. You're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.